Hey guys, just a quick notice before starting the video. This video is sponsored by Bluehost. Bluehost is the leading web hosting provider which we will be using while creating our WordPress website. Right now, Bluehost is providing a special discount of 70% to all our viewers who take the Bluehost web hosting by visiting the website given in the description. Only the first 100 people who take the web hosting through our link will get this special discount. Now our instructor Mike will start with the course.
In order to actually create a WordPress website, you're going to need three things. And those three things are WordPress, web hosting, and a domain name. So let's start with the first one. What exactly is WordPress? Just think of WordPress as the platform you're going to use to actually build your website. And this is what it looks like. So you can create pages, you can write blog posts, you can review comments that people have left on your website, and most importantly, you can visually customize your website just by dragging and dropping things onto it. WordPress has made building websites so much easier. In fact, over 35% of the websites you see on the internet are actually powered by WordPress. Before, in order to create a website, you had to learn HTML, CSS, or some other coding language, which is time-consuming and often frustrating if you don't know what you're doing. Sometimes it would take days or even months before you had your website up and running. That's why WordPress is so awesome, because it takes care of all the hard work for you, and you can literally have a website up and running in less than an hour. And the best part about all of this is that WordPress is free. And with all that being said, let's move on to the next thing you'll need, which is web hosting. So web hosting is just where all of your website's files are stored. So all of your text, your images, videos, and any other content that's on your website is stored on a web hosting server. Now without web hosting, nobody can actually visit your website because no one will have any way to connect to it. So if you want your website to appear on the internet and you want people to actually visit it, you need to have web hosting. So it works a little like this. You pay a web hosting company a couple dollars a month and they'll host your website along with all of its files. So about the same price as a cup of coffee. Now let's talk about the last thing you'll need, which is a domain name. So a domain is just the name of your website. And you can make this literally anything you want as long as it's available. And when choosing your domain, you decide what extension you want. So do you want .com? Do you want .org, .info, .biz, .shop? It's entirely up to you. So let's just recap on what we've talked about. So you'll need WordPress, web hosting, and a domain name. And like I said, WordPress is 100% free. Your web hosting will cost you anywhere from $2 to $3 a month. And your domain you'll actually get for free as well if you sign up using Bluehost, which is the web hosting provider I personally recommend. Now, if you don't want to use Bluehost, I'll have a list of other web hosting options in the next lecture. Just know that the setup might be a little different than how we do it in the course. Now, with all that being said, I hope I've answered all of your questions about WordPress, web hosting, and domain names. So in the next video, we're going to start setting up our web hosting, we're going to get our free domain name, and we're also going to install WordPress. Okay, so when you're ready to get your web hosting, we're going to head on over to bluehost.com. Now this is the web hosting company we're going to be using in this course, but you're more than welcome to use whichever one you want. There's literally thousands of them out there. Now if you decide not to go with Bluehost, that's perfectly fine. The setup for your web hosting account might be a little bit different, but once we actually get into WordPress, everything is going to be exactly the same. So everything I do, you'll be able to do as well. So once you're on bluehost.com, you can start off by clicking the green Get Started button. Now this is going to ask you to choose a plan. Now there's 4 different plans that you can choose from. There's the Basic, Plus, Choice Plus, and the Pro. The main difference between the Basic plan and the rest of the plans is that with the Basic, you are only allowed to create one website. Whereas if you went with either of these plans, you can pretty much make as many websites as you want on that single plan. The other main difference is that with the basic plan, you are only allowed 50 gigabytes of storage. Now these are both things to consider because if you think that at any point you're going to want to create another website, then I would definitely just go with one of the plus plans. Now, as far as storage goes, 50 gigabytes still is a lot of space. However, if you think that you're going to have a very large website full of images, videos, and just content in general, then I would maybe consider upgrading to the Plus plan. Now, the differences between these three plans is that they throw in a bunch of add-ons. Now, a lot of these add-ons are not necessary simply because you can get free WordPress plugins that will do the same exact thing. So I wouldn't worry too much about all this extra stuff. If I were you, I would look more into the basic or the plus. So we are actually going to go with the basic plan. On this next page, this is where you're going to decide on your domain. Now, if you already have one, you can go ahead and enter it into the box here and click next, and they'll help you set it up. But let's say we're brand new to this and we don't have a domain name yet. So go ahead and enter in the domain that you want here. And this is where you're going to choose the domain extension, which we covered earlier. Personally, I recommend going with .com simply because it's the most recognized and trusted domain extension. But feel free to choose whichever one you want. Once you click next, it's either going to tell you the domain's available or it's going to tell you to pick a new one. So let's go ahead and try it out. As you can see, the domain websitemakers.com is available. So on this next page, this is where you're going to fill out your account information. So just make sure that all of this information is correct before moving on to the next section. So in the next section here, you're going to be able to choose the length of your plan. And as you can see, the longer you sign up for, the cheaper price you're going to get. So if you're just looking to try it out for a year, $4.95 is still a great deal compared to a lot of web hosting companies. So we're actually going to go with the 12-month plan. So it brought our price down to $59.40, and we get our domain registration for free, which is our domain name. And then we also get a free SSL certificate. Now the SSL certificate is this icon here up in the corner. This basically lets all your website visitors know that your website is safe and secure. So any information they were to enter on your website would be 100% safe. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the package extras. Now by default, they're going to have a couple of these already selected for you, but most of these you really don't need, like CodeGuard Basic and SiteLock Security, because again, there are free WordPress plugins out there that will do these same things. Now, if there was one package extra that I recommend, it's domain privacy protection. And that's because it's going to protect all of your personal information that's tied to your domain. So whenever somebody registers a new domain name, their personal information like their name, their address, their phone number is actually tied to that domain. And that information is then uploaded into a database so we can kind of keep track of who owns all the domain names out there. Now, when you buy domain privacy protection, it pretty much protects all of your personal information and doesn't allow it to be put into that database. Instead, what it's going to show is the company that you are actually registered under. So in this case, it would show Bluehost's information rather than our personal information. So you can read a little more about that here, but I do definitely recommend signing up for domain privacy protection. And that's really the only extra that you need. So as you can see here, our total is $71.28 and we've saved almost $50. So let's go ahead and move on to the next section, which is your payment information. So go ahead and fill all that out. So once you've filled all this out, you can go ahead and come down to the bottom, read the terms and conditions, select the box, and then click submit. Okay, so after you've signed up, you should be brought to this page where it's going to ask you to create a password for your new account. Now, if for whatever reason you aren't automatically brought to this page, go ahead and check your email because sometimes they'll email the link to create your password. So yeah, check for it there if you're not automatically brought here. So now go ahead and create your password and be sure to write it down because this is what's going to be used to log into your Bluehost account. So if you ever have issues with your website and you need to get up with support, you'll have to log into this account. All right, so now that we've created our password, go ahead and click the next button. Congratulations, you've created your web hosting account. So let's go ahead and log in. So after logging in, they're going to immediately help you set up your first website with the domain that you chose during signup. And this is exactly why I love using Bluehost because there's no extra steps involved. You don't have to install WordPress. They pretty much do it all for you. So as soon as you log in, they're going to ask you to pick a WordPress theme for your website, which is basically the overall appearance of your website. Now this theme can be changed once we get into WordPress, so it doesn't really matter which one you choose now, but we'll cover more about themes in a few minutes. So go ahead and look through all the themes that they have here and choose one you like. And now it's going to start setting up our website. All right, as you can see, WordPress has installed successfully. So congratulations, your website is now created under the domain that you chose. So before you go any further, please make note that this is your username and your password for logging into your WordPress website. You're going to need this information every time you want to make a change to your website. Now in a minute, I'm actually going to show you how to change this password to something you would normally use. But for now, just make sure that you write it down. Now there's two links here. There's one directly to your website. And then the second link is strictly for you, the admin of the website. But let's start off by just going to our website right now. And as you can see, it's basically going to tell you that it's not quite finished. So you could either click on this button that says admin login, which is going to help you log into WordPress, or you can come up here and type wp-admin and then press enter. And they basically do the exact same thing. So now it's going to ask for your username and password. So we're going to go back here and we'll take our username, we'll copy it. We'll come back and paste it here. And then we'll go back and grab our password and do the exact same thing. So now we're ready to log in. So let's go ahead and check this box and log in. So this is the WordPress dashboard, and this is where you're going to be doing all the customization of your website. Now there's a lot of pop-ups here, so let's go ahead and exit out of a bunch of these. Just kind of clean things up a little bit. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change the password to our WordPress account to make it a little easier to remember. So let's go down to where it says users and go to all users. And as you can see, this is my account here. So let's click on edit. And once you're on this page, just scroll all the way down to the bottom, and where it says new password, generate password, go ahead and click this button. And we're actually going to change it. So just highlight and then click backspace. And let's change this to a password that we're more familiar with and we're going to remember. And then we'll click update profile. And this is going to change that really weird password to one that we're going to remember. All right, so now that we have our account set up and we have our password changed, let's go back to home. So now that you've purchased your web hosting and you've installed WordPress, now it's time to learn how to start using it to create websites. So let's start off by seeing what our website looks like right now. So go up to the top left here where it says the name of your website, and then click on Visit Site. And this is what our website currently looks like. Pretty bland, not a lot going on, but it's there. So we can actually click on this sample page here and scroll down. And this is just some starter stuff that they put out. And there's also a blog post that we could click on. But let's go back to the home page by clicking on our logo. All right, so that's our website. That's what it looks like right this minute. So to get back to the WordPress dashboard, go back up to the top left and then click on dashboard. Now notice at the top here that it says coming soon active. And this basically means that anybody that were to visit your website, they would see this coming soon page. So I'll show you how to get rid of that. Let's go down to where it says settings, and then we'll go to general. And we'll scroll down where it says coming soon page. So we can go ahead and click on turn it off and then click save changes. All right, so now if we were to go back to the website, it's now live, so other people can see it. So if you ever wanted to make some changes to your website and you don't want anybody to be able to get to it while you're making those changes, you can just turn it back on and then click Save Changes. But before we actually start building our website, I want to talk a little more about the menu here on the side, because I want you to feel more comfortable working in WordPress. And as you can see, there's all kinds of options here that we can choose from. Well, let's start at the top and we'll just kind of go down and talk about them. So at the very top, there's a menu item for Bluehost. Now this is obviously going to be specific to Bluehost. So if you went with a different web hosting company, there's a good chance that yours is different. But they basically threw this in here as a quick way to jump back over to their site in case you ever need to manage your web hosting or your domain or anything like that. There's a good chance you probably won't ever use this tab, but it's there in case you need to quickly get over to their website. It's kind of more of a convenience thing. So the next tab here is Jetpack, and this is actually a WordPress plugin, and it does all kinds of things, but we'll cover a little bit more about that later. So the next one is obviously Dashboard, but notice how under the selected menu item, there's sub menu items. So we've got Home, we've got Updates, and we've got Insights. So anytime that you need to update WordPress or maybe your plugins or your theme, there's going to be an icon here like a 1, a 2, basically letting you know how many updates are required. But if you ever see a number next to this, it basically means that you need to update something. So you just head on over to that page and it'll pretty much update everything at the click of a button. Really convenient. So let's go ahead and move on to the next menu item, which is Posts. Now this is where you're going to go to view all your blog posts. You can create new ones. You can organize them into categories or manage tags for them. But anything to do with blog posts is going to be done under this menu item. And when I say blog posts, they're basically articles that you would write. So let's go ahead and move on to the next item here, which is Media Library. And this is where all your images, your videos, and maybe you have music on your website. All of that is going to be stored under the media library. So if you ever wanted to edit an image or maybe delete one entirely, you can go here to do that. So moving right along, the next item here is Pages. And this is where you're going to go to manage all of the pages of your website. So if you wanted to create a home page, an About Us page, maybe even a contact page, this is where you're going to go to do so. Now the next menu item here is Comments, and this is where you can go to view all the comments that people have left on your website. So the next menu item here is WP Forms, and it's actually only here because we have the plugin installed. If we didn't have it installed, this item would not be here. So we'll be covering a little bit more about this later as well once we start talking about plugins. But for now, we'll just move on to the next one, which is Appearance. So Appearance is where you're going to go to add a new theme, customize it, add widgets, menus, change your background. All of that is going to be done under this menu. Now the next one is Plugins, and this is where you're going to go to install new ones or delete existing ones. So plugins are things that you can install to your website to add new features or just enhance it in some way. Now we'll cover more about plugins later in a different lesson. Now the next one here is Users, and we've already kind of seen what this one looks like. But let's say that you and your friend just created a brand new website and you want to make sure that they have their own login. This is where you can go to basically create their own profile. Now the next one is Tools, and you probably won't find yourself using this one too often, but it does allow you to import and export different things to and from your website. And sometimes when you install a certain plugin, it'll place the plugin under the tool menu item. So if you want to use it, you have to go to this tab. But like I said, you probably won't find yourself using the tools very often. So the next one is Settings, and this allows you to change various settings about your website. As you saw in one of the previous lessons, we went into the general settings to turn off the Coming Soon page. But there's a ton of options in here, and we'll actually be changing some of these settings throughout the course. Now the last two are kind of similar to the Jetpack tab at the very top. These are only here because we've installed the plugins. So if you wanted to access some of the features of that plugin, you would basically go to the menu item here and you'd be able to adjust some of the settings for that plugin. Now that's pretty much it for the menu. So let's go up to the top here. Now you guys already know this one, but if you go over to your site title, this is how you visit your website. Now to the right of that, this is where it tells you if you have any new comments on your website. So if somebody left you a comment, it would show that number here. Now to the right of that, you have the new button. And this basically allows you to quickly create any of the following. So you can quickly create a post, you can add a new media, so an image, video, new page, new user, or maybe even a form. because we have that plugin installed. Now let's say you wanted to log out of your profile. You could come up to the top right here and you could either edit or you could just log out. But that's pretty much it for the WordPress menu. It may seem like a lot at first, but I promise once you start using it, it's really not all that bad. So now we're pretty much ready to start building our website. And the very first thing that we're going to do is install a new theme. Now, real quick, let's go back and see what our website looks like. Now, every year WordPress comes out with a new theme. This is the 2020 theme, and there's not a whole lot going on, but it's just kind of the starter default theme. So let's go back into the dashboard and we'll go down to where it says appearance, and then we'll click on themes. And these are all the default themes that WordPress has installed for us. But we're actually not going to be using any of these themes. We're going to go down to where it says add new theme and click on that. So as you can see, this is the one that we have currently installed. It's the 2020 theme. Now when you're searching for themes, you can actually filter it by featured, popular, latest, and premium themes. Premium themes are themes that you have to pay for, but there's plenty of really good free ones out there. So let's just take a look at popular. So these are all the popular themes right now. So let's go back up and then we'll look at latest. We could see new themes. And then of course, if there's a theme that you've heard about, you can obviously search for it in the box here. Now let's say you find a theme you like, you can actually preview it by hovering over it and then clicking on it. And this will give you a general idea of what it looks like. Now, because we haven't done anything to our website yet, it's not going to look remotely close to the preview image here. But don't worry about it too much because this is accurate of what we're going to be able to make our website look like. Now, the theme I'm going to be using in this course is Astra, but you are more than welcome to choose whichever theme you want. When you've decided on a theme, just hover over it and then click install. And once it's done, it'll say installed. Now just click activate. Alright, so it says new theme activated. Thank you for installing Astra. Okay, so now that we've installed our theme, let's go ahead and take a look at what our website looks like now. So let's go up to the top left and then click on visit site. So as you can see, it looks a little bit different than it did before. It still looks pretty bland, but in my opinion, this is a way cleaner design to work with. So now that we've installed our theme, we're actually going to go ahead and create our home page. So let's go over to where it says pages, and then we'll click on all pages. And these are all the pages that we currently have on our website. So as you can see, there's a privacy policy and there's a sample page. These are both default pages that WordPress has automatically inserted into our website. Now, what I personally like to do when I start a brand new website is start on a completely clean slate. I like to get rid of everything that's already on it and start fresh. So what we're actually going to do here is we're going to delete both of these pages and we'll actually create our own. So in order to delete a page, you can either individually select each page or you can check this box here because we're going to get rid of both of these. And then we're going to come up here where it says bulk actions and we'll click on it and we'll click move to trash. Now, if you wanted to delete one of them at a time, you could actually just hover over that page and click on trash here. But because we're deleting both of them, we're going to use this option here and then click apply. All right, so now it says 2 pages moved to the trash and we'll go to where it says trash. And we'll do the exact same thing. Except this time we're going to click delete permanently. And then click apply. So that's going to get rid of all the pages on our website. So now we have a completely clean slate to work with. So now let's go up to where it says add new. So let's go ahead and type in the name of this page. We're going to call it home because it's going to be our home page. And we're going to leave the rest of this blank for now. Once you've done that, go over on the right side. We're actually going to leave all these settings as is. And come up to where it says preview and publish. Now, if you just wanted to preview the page that you just created, you could click on that. That's actually going to load the page just so that you can see it. It's not actually going to put it on your website. But let's say we're ready to publish it and we want it on our website right now. So go ahead and click on publish and click on publish again. All right, it says home is now live. So we can go ahead and click on view page. So this is our home page. But notice how when we click on our site title, this is our home page right now. This isn't what you want. So there's one more step that you have to do in order to actually make this page your real home page of your website. So go ahead and go up to where it says customize and click on it. Now this is the theme customizer, and it's where you're going to be doing most of the customization of your website. So go down to where it says homepage settings and click on it. And it says our homepage currently displays your latest posts. So right now our homepage is showing our latest blog posts. Now if you're creating a blog, this might be something you want. You might want your homepage to display all of your latest blog posts. But if you're creating like a business website, you may want it to have what's called a static page, which is a page that you're going to design specifically as your home page. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on static page, and then we're going to go to where it says home page, and we're going to click on home, which is the page that we just created. Now where it says post page, we can select a page where it's going to show all of our latest blog posts. But as you can see, we don't have one right now. We didn't make one. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on add new page, and we'll call it blog, and then click add. So now we have a blog page that's going to show all of our latest posts. And we also have a home page that will be able to design strictly for our home page. So now if we click on our site title, it takes us to the correct home page. So when you're done making those changes, go up to the top where it says publish and click on it. And now that we're done with the customizer, we can exit out. And as you can see, we now have a blog button on our navigation bar. So if we click on it, it's going to take us to our recent blog post. And if we go back to our site title, it's going to take us to the home page. So that's how you set up a custom home page and a blog page. And it's entirely up to you whether you decide to use a static home page or a blog style home page. It really just kind of depends on the website you're creating. All right, so now let's talk about blog posts. So again, blog posts are basically just articles that you decide to write and publish to your website. And these can be about news or just updates that you may have for your website visitors. It really just kind of depends on what your website's about. Maybe you own a food blog and you want to write blog posts about food. Then every day you could get on and create a new blog post and just type it out and then publish it. So I'm going to show you exactly how to create a blog post, and I'm going to show you the different ways that you can do it. So let's start off by going over to the menu where it says post, and we'll click on all posts. Now by default, WordPress will automatically create a sample blog post for you, and we actually saw that in another lesson. But again, I like to start off on a clean slate, so we're going to go ahead and delete this. Now, once it's in the trash, we're going to go to trash and we'll delete it permanently. So now we have no posts on our website. So let's go up to add new. And this is what's called the Gutenberg editor. And this was added to WordPress within the last couple of years. And it's brought a lot of really cool changes to the way that you actually create blog posts and just pages in general. So we're going to go over kind of how to use it. And we're also going to create our very first blog post for our website. So let's start off by giving our blog post a title. We're just going to call it, I created my first website today. And under the title, there's a whole new section here where you can start writing the actual content of the blog post. So notice that it says start writing or type / to choose a block. So let's go ahead and click into the paragraph here. The first thing I want you to notice is this plus sign, and it says add block. Now you can either add it here, you can click up here, or you can type /. And all of these do the exact same thing. It just kind of depends on how you want to enter it yourself. So by clicking on either one, there's basically a whole bunch of different features that you can implement into your blog post. So let's start off by pressing the paragraph, which is what we were already on. And now I'm just going to insert some filler text in here. So now let's say we wanted to add a new block in between these two blocks right here. So in between this paragraph and this paragraph, you can see here that there's a plus icon. So if we click on it, we can actually add anything we want, any feature that we want. So let's add a quote and we'll say, I didn't expect WordPress to be this easy to learn. I love it and it's amazing. And then we can add our name below it. Now let's say that we wanted to format this a little more. So there's options up here, just like any other word processing software. So we could actually bold it. So let's highlight this and we'll click bold and we can double click on our name and we'll bold that as well. Now let's say we wanted to align this to the center. We can click here and we can click align text center. So let's click out of it. And now we have a paragraph, we have a quote, and we have another paragraph. But let's say we don't want the quote here. We want it to be below this paragraph. You can actually just click on it, then come over here, and you can just click the down arrow to move it down. So pretty cool. And you can do the same thing. You can go back up and pretty much put it where you want it. And you could also drag it. So we could drag it all the way down here if we wanted to. But let's put it back under the second paragraph. And then we'll click out of it. So just for fun, let's go below the second paragraph here and let's insert an image. So now we'll click on upload and we're just going to insert this picture I have here. Now we've got this really big picture on our blog. Let's say we wanted to kind of reduce the size of it. We just click on the side here and then we can drag it down. And then we could write a caption. We'll say WordPress and let's bold that too. So now that we've resized it and we've added a caption, let's go ahead and center it. So let's click on this box and then we'll click align center and then we can click out of the block entirely. So let's go to our website and see what the blog post looks like. So come up to the top and we can click on preview without actually publishing the blog post. So let's go ahead and do that. So this is what the blog post looks like. Pretty nice. It's come together. But let's go back to the blog post and we'll edit a little bit more. So let's say that we wanted to add a page break in between these two blocks. So we're going to click on add block and let's just add a page break. And we'll click on preview again and it's going to refresh this page. So now if we scroll down under this paragraph text, it's going to separate it into two pages. So now the reader has to click on the second page to read the rest of the blog post. So pretty cool. So let's head on back and we'll actually just delete this for now. Now there's another cool thing that you can do, and I believe it's found under layout elements. So let's add a spacer. So this is basically going to create some white space in between two blocks. And you can increase or decrease it as you wish. But let's go ahead and increase it to like there. And click on preview. And now if we scroll down, we've got a little bit of white space here. And that just kind of gives them a little bit of a reading break. Now, something else cool that you could do is you could come back and let's say we want to add a comment block and we'll add in a heading. And then if we click on preview, it's going to refresh the page. And if we scroll down, it's like we have an entire new section to read here. Not a completely new blog post, but just a new section. So let's go on back to the editor. Now, I do want to show you guys what the classic editor looks like because some of you may prefer to use that instead of the Gutenberg editor. So if you want to add in the classic editor, go up to the top and we'll click on add block. And let's scroll down to formatting, and then we'll click on classic. And this is what was used before Gutenberg was a thing. And it's much like any other word processing program like Microsoft Word. It's pretty easy to use. So if this is something you would rather use over Gutenberg, you can certainly do that, no problem. So let's just say this is the classic editor. And we can pretty much do the exact same stuff that you would do in like Microsoft Word. So it really just kind of depends which one you would rather use. And it functions exactly the same way as Gutenberg. It's just a different text editor, if you will. So let's go ahead and delete this block. And let's talk about the stuff at the top here. This button here is content structure. And if you click on it, it'll actually tell you how many words you've written in your blog post. It'll tell you how many headings you have. It'll tell you how many paragraphs of text you have. And it'll also tell you how many blocks you have on your blog post. Now the next icon here is block navigation. So this basically allows you to jump around to the different blocks in your blog post. So let's say we're at the bottom paragraph and we want to get to the top paragraph. Yeah, we could just scroll up. Let's just say our scroll wheel is broken. How do we get up there? Well, you can just click on the paragraph text and it'll jump right to the top. And you can do the same thing. Let's say we want to jump to the heading. Click on it. It'll take you right to the heading. Now let's add one more thing here. And let's actually add a button. So let's make this button called sign up. And then we can actually change the color of the button. So let's change the text color to kind of a light gray. And we can make the background color any color we want. There's even gradients. So you could pretty much change this however you'd like. But we're going to do solid. And let's do a green button. The other thing we can do is we can add some roundness to the button, or we can make it really sharp. Let's add a little bit of roundness to it. And then we'll go ahead and bold the text that's in here. So let's click on it and then we'll click bold. So now let's align the button to the center. So click on the box around the button and then we'll come up here to the align tool and let's click align center. Now the button's in the center of the blog post. So let's go ahead and preview our changes. And we'll scroll down. Now we have this nicely written blog post. And it was really easy to put together. So let's go ahead and go back to the blog post. Let's scroll back up to the top. And let's click on document. So the first thing to look at here is status and visibility. So right now it's set as public, so it could be visible to everyone. But that's only if we were to publish it that way. Right now it's not published, so we're the only ones that can see it. But we could change it to private and then publish it. And it even says, hey, would you like to privately publish this post now? So you could do that, or you could just skip it. You could even set it as password protected, so only people that have the password can actually see it. You can also choose when you want it to publish. So let's say you write your blog post in advance. And say we wanted to publish it tomorrow, we could put May 22nd. And I believe we can change the time too, so we can make it 12 p.m. or a.m. or however you want to do it. And then you could exit out of that. Now here under post format, this is where you can select like what kind of blog post it's going to be. So maybe it's just an image you're going to upload or a video blog post. You can select whatever it is here. We can also choose the option to stick to the top of the blog. So this is basically going to put it at the top of our blog list. So let's go down to permalink. Now we talked a little about permalinks earlier, and we changed it so our permalinks include our post name. Now, just because it's our post name doesn't mean that we can't shorten this. So we could say, I created website, and then call it done. But we'll leave it as the entire blog title. So when you're all finished writing your blog post, we can go ahead and publish it. So click publish. And we'll just go ahead and click on publish again. And now we can view it. So let's go check it out. So now the blog post has been published and other people can see it on our website. So let's go ahead and check it out and scroll down. Now notice here that there's a leave a comment, so other people could actually come onto this page and read your article and then leave you a comment. Pretty cool. But let's go to the top here and let's click on the blog page that we created earlier. So this is our blog page where everybody can go to see all of our blogs that we've published. Now it's only showing one right now because that's the only one we've created. But if we had, I don't know, 10 blogs, everybody could come on this page and then look through and find one they want to read. So that's how you use the Gutenberg editor to create blog posts. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is permalinks. So permalinks are permanent links that lead to your individual pages and posts that are on your website. So for example, if we were to go to our blog page, so this is our permalink right here. Now, I don't know about you guys, but this doesn't really stand out. It doesn't really represent what this page is about. And that's what you want with your permalinks. You want your permalinks to kind of represent what the page is going to be about. So we would want something like this, like blog or blog post or something like that. So I'm actually going to show you how to change your permalinks to something that reads a little better. So the first thing you want to do is go back into your dashboard. And now we're going to go down to settings and let's click on permalinks. And we want these to look clean. We want them to look professional. And most importantly, we want our website visitors to remember that link in case they want to get back to it. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if I were somebody's website visitor, I would not remember /P equals, whatever. I wouldn't remember that. So we're going to change that. So now that we're on this page, you can see that there's several different options that you can choose from. Now, right now we have it set up as the plain setting, where this was the /P equals 123. Now we could set it up so that it's the day and time that post was published. So it could be websitemakers.com /2020 May 21st and then the name of the post. But that's still a little bit too long, doesn't look as clean. We don't really want that. So let's take a look at the next one. So the next one is month and name. So yeah, that's a little better, a little shorter, but I think we could do better than that. So the one that we really want is post name. And this is going to change it so that the permalink displays what page you're on. So if I'm on the about page, it'll say websitemakers.com /about. Or if I'm on the blog page, it'll say websitemakers.com /blog. So it just looks clean and professional. And that's what we want. So we're going to make sure that we have selected post name. And we'll come down to save changes. All right, so permalink structure has been updated. So now go up to the top and let's go back to our website. So right now it's not going to show anything because we're actually on our home page. And when you're on your home page, there is no permalink. It's just your website address. But let's click on blog and see what it says. There we go. So now it says websitemakers.com /blog. And that just looks so much better than before. And it actually lets visitors know where they're at on the website. In this lesson, we're going to talk a little more about the theme customizer. So from your website, go up to where it says customize and click on it. And this is the theme customizer. It's not where you add content to your website. It's just where you customize the layout of your website. So adding things like colors, fonts, changing the site title, the tagline, things like that. So to start things off, let's go ahead and go down to where it says global and we'll click on it. Now there's 4 different options. There's typography, colors, container, and buttons. We'll start off by looking at typography. And this is where you can change the fonts of your website for things like the paragraphs and the headings. So by clicking on base typography, we're able to change the font of the body text. So we could go down here where it says family and we can actually change the font to a different one. And obviously that looks really bad, so we're not going to use that, but there's tons of fonts in here that you can choose from. So if you want to switch to something different other than the default one, you can do that. Like this one doesn't look too bad, but I'm just going to leave it at default for now. Now the other thing that you can do is you can actually increase the size of the font. So let's do that. We'll change this to 20. And as you can see, it's increasing the font of the body text. Let's make it 50 to kind of make it stand out a little more. So these are examples of your body text. These right here are actually headings. So by increasing the size of the font here, it's not going to mess with these. Let's go and drop this back down to 15. Now the other thing you can do is you can increase the weight of the font. And basically what this means is you can either bold it or you can make it really light. So notice how it changes here. The text just went really light. Now we could change it to a bold and it changes the text there. So the other thing you can do is you can actually transform the text by capitalizing it, or you can make it all uppercase or lowercase. We'll do lowercase. And it changes it there. But we're going to leave it at default, and we'll change this back to default as well. So that's changing the base typography. So let's go back and we can do the same thing for headings. So with headings, there's different levels. There's H1 through H6. And this basically allows you to individually format different headings. So just like before, these are all options that you can change, and you can individually change them for each heading if you want. So let's go back. And we'll go back one more and let's look at colors. And we'll go to base colors. And this is where you can change the colors of the text on your website. So let's take a look at text color. We'll click on it. Let's do a red just so you can see exactly what changes. But let's go back to black. And we'll make it kind of like a gray here. So now let's take a look at link color. And let's change it to green. So as you can see, by changing link color, it changes all of these links here. Now notice how when you hover over it, it changes to a different color too. So we could actually take a look at that as well by going to link hover color. And we can change this to, let's change it to red. So when we hover over it, it's going to turn red. So for now, let's just make it blue. And we'll make the link hover color a gray. So the other thing you can do is you can change the background color. So this gray space right here, you can change that. So let's just bring it up here and let's click on red. So it's really bright, and I personally don't recommend doing this, but it is an option. So you can make it something really vibrant like lime green, or you can make it red. Whatever color you want, you can pretty much do. So let's go and clear it, and we'll get it back to the default color, which is a light gray. And the last thing you could do on this page is you could actually add a background image, and it would basically show up on the back here. Let's go back, and we'll go back one more time, and let's check out container. So container is where you can adjust the sizing of the layout of your website. So notice what happens when we adjust this slider. It's going to shift everything over on your website. So it's allowing it to get closer to the edge. And let's just hide the controls here so we can get a little better idea of what it looks like. So it's spread out a lot further now. Let's open it back up, and we'll just reset it for now. And let's actually put it max just to see what it looks like. Now if we hide the controls, it puts it at the very edge of the website. Let's go back in and we'll just reset it. Now the next thing you can change here is the layout, which is very similar to what we were just doing. So we could change it to boxed so that everything on the website is kind of in a boxed layout. And let's try full width contained. It's going to get rid of that box layout. Now let's try full width stretched. Now this is going to stretch the content to the edge of your website. Let's actually put it back on content box for now. Now the other thing you can do is you can individually set up different layouts for different pages of your website. For example, for our pages, we could have it set up as a full width layout. And for our blog page, let's go ahead and click on it. we could have this set up to content boxed as it is right now. So we can have it set up differently. Well, let's put everything back to default and let's go to our home page. And we're actually going to change this to full width contained. Just like that. So let's go back and let's talk about the last thing here, which is buttons. So under buttons, this allows you to customize different features of your buttons. So things like colors, borders, typography, and spacing. And all you have to do is click on the little pencil here and you can change the different colors. We'll talk about this more later once we get some buttons on our website. Let's go back. And the other thing we're going to talk about is breadcrumb. So let's click on it. Now what a breadcrumb is it's basically a trail showing your visitors where they're at on your website. So let's take a look and let's open up this box and let's click on inside header. Now it's going to start the breadcrumb on your home page. And if we were to click on our blog page, it'll keep track of where we've been on the website. So if your visitors wanted to get back to the home page, they could also click on this button to take them back. Now let's change the position to after header. And this looks a little bit cleaner. And let's do the same thing. We'll go to blog. And we can go home by clicking on the home button. Now a lot of websites do use this feature. However, they disable it on their home page. So it only shows up when you go to other pages of your website. But we're going to leave it off for now. And let's go back. Now let's take a look at blog. And let's click on our blog page. So this is what's known as your blog page because it's where all of your blogs are stored. Now if we were to click on our blog here, this is a single post page. So you can customize these settings accordingly. But let's go back to blog. And let's click on blog archive. So this allows you to customize the post structure. So this is what's known as the blog title, and this is the blog meta. And let's say we wanted to hide both of these. We could just click on this eye here, and it basically hides it. Let's open it back up, and let's mess around with the meta. So let's say we want to hide the comments, and we want to add the publish date. We click on it. And let's say we want to rearrange these so that the publish date is first. We'll click and drag. So now it says the publish date, the category, and the author. And you can arrange these any way you want. So now let's take a look at post content. Right now it's set up to show just an excerpt of each blog post, but we could actually have it so that it displays the entire blog post on our archive page. Now you probably don't want to do this. You probably just want to keep it as an excerpt. That way, if your visitors want to read each blog post, all they have to do is click on read more. So just like everything else, you can customize the fonts here. So we could increase the font size. But let's decrease it back down. So now let's go back. And let's click on our blog post. And now let's go into single post. And you can do the exact same thing. So you could hide the title. So let's open it back up. And let's hide comments. And let's add in publish date. And we'll rearrange it. And there we go. And let's actually hide category on this one. And again, you can change the typography here. So let's go back and we'll go back. So that's how you customize the blog pages of your website. So in the next lesson, we're going to talk about customizing the header of your website, which is this section up here. In this lesson, I'm going to show you guys how to upload a logo to your website. Now, if you don't have a logo yet, feel free to watch the next lesson where I show you how to make one for free. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So let's go down to where it says header and click on it. And then we're going to go to site identity. And now let's click on select logo. And we're going to go ahead and upload our file. So let's click on select. And we can crop our logo. We're going to bring in the top and bottom a little bit. And then click on crop image. And now it's going to upload the logo to your website. Now we just need to get rid of our site title here. And the reason our site title is showing is because we have this box checked. So go ahead and uncheck it. And there we go. Now we just have our logo in our header. You can actually change the width or the size of your logo. So just move the slider around. We can decrease the size or we can increase it. And we'll go with 250. And there we go. We now have our logo on our website. And the other thing you can do is you can actually upload different logos for different devices. So let's say you want your logo to show up differently on mobile. You can click this button here and you can upload an entirely different logo. But we're going to leave that option off for now. So let's go back into desktop mode. And once you're all done, go on up to the top and click on publish. Now again, if you don't have a logo yet for your website, feel free to watch the next lesson where I show you how to make one for free. In this lesson, I'm going to show you an easy way to make a free logo for your website. So we're going to be using this website called logomaker.com, and that's logo maker without an E. So the first thing we're going to do is start by clicking this T icon here, which is going to add some text. And then we're going to type website. You can resize it by clicking the corner here and then just dragging. Let's make it this big and let's click out of it and we'll hover over it and then just drag it where we want it. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this text layer. So come over here to where it says layers and click the three dots and click duplicate. Now we have two text layers. So let's drag the other one to the right side. And the reason I'm doing it this way is so that I can individually change the colors of each font. So now let's double click inside of this text layer and let's add the other part of our website and we'll click out of it. And you can also use your arrow keys on your keyboard to slide it over. And we'll put it right next to it. So the other thing you can do is you can change the font and there's different categories here. So let's take a look. So we could have a 3D font, or we could have a cursive font, and there's tons of fonts under those categories. But let's stick with something a little bit more simple and modern. And I'm going to use Cantora 1. All right, so now let's go ahead and change the font for this one too. And we're going to make it the same. So now again, you can use your arrow keys to slide it over, just like that. Now you can also add shapes to your logo if you want. But we're going to come up here and we're going to add a graphic. So let's type in something that we want. We're going to type in pointer. And let's scroll through and find one we like. I like this one right here. So just click on it to add it into your logo. And let's click and move it. And let's resize it. And we're going to put it on the right side of the logo. And let's actually rotate it. Now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the colors of everything. So let's start off with website. So click on it. And let's do an orange. And then we'll click on our second text layer. And let's make this kind of a black. And then we'll click on our graphic. And we're going to make this the same color as website. So what you can do is you can click on this eyedropper tool. And then we'll just hover over the color we want and click on it. And there we go. We have a nice, simple, clean logo. Now the last thing we're going to do is come down to where it says crop at the bottom right. And we're just going to crop our logo. So just click and drag somewhere in there. Then we'll click on crop again. And now to save our logo, we're going to go up to the top right here, click on Save Logo. And they're giving you the option to purchase the high resolution logo files, but we're going to click no thanks, download low res file. So now we have the file downloaded. So now you can go back over to your website and you can upload the logo under the header. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to change the favicon or the site icon of your website. Now the favicon is this icon that shows up in your browser tab, and every big website has a favicon. It's a very helpful thing to add to your website because if somebody has a bunch of tabs open, they can easily remember which one is your website just by seeing the favicon. So for example, YouTube has this red play button as their site icon. So just by looking at the top, I know instantly that this is their website. It's really easy to change and it makes your website look 10 times more professional. So from the theme customizer, let's go down to header and then click on site identity and go down to where it says site icon, and we're going to click on that. So as you can see here, it says the suggested image dimensions are 512 by 512 pixels. Now we haven't created our favicon yet, so we're actually going to be using logomaker.com, which is the same website I used to create this logo. And at the top right, there's a couple gear icons here. Go ahead and click on that. And we're going to change the document size to 512 by 512. And then we're just going to exit out of this. And now we're going to come over to the right side where it says layers. And we're just going to hide our text layers. Now click on your clip art, and then we're going to click and drag to move it into the white box. Now you can just resize it and make it nice and big. And we're just going to fill up the entire white space here. Perfect. So this is what we're going to be using as our site icon. And you don't just have to use graphics, you can use text as well. But we're going to use a graphic. So now once you've finished, go back up to save. And we're just going to download it. So now go back over to your website. And we're just going to drag the image in here. And then click select. And go ahead and click crop image. So as you can see, it's changed our site icon at the top left. And doesn't that look so much better? It's just a little change, but it makes your website look so much more professional. So once you've finished that, just make sure you click publish to save your changes. So now we have our favicon and we have our site logo on our website. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to customize the header of your website, which is this section at the top right here. So from your website, let's go up to the top where it says customize, and then we'll click on header. So let's go back into site identity and let's scroll down to site title. So this is where you could change the site title of your website. Now in the last lesson, we actually turned that off, but this isn't the only use for the site title. The site title actually shows up in the browser tab at the top here. So if we were to change this to websitemakers.com, it would actually change this right here to websitemakers.com in the browser tab. And this also goes for the tagline. So we could change this to We Make Websites 2020, and it would change it right here to We Make Websites 2020. Or we could add a bunch of more numbers to it, and it would change it there too, as you can see. But we're going to leave it as it was. And so now let's go back up and we'll click on back. Now let's go into primary header. So under primary header, you can actually change the layout of your header. So right now it's set up to have our logo on the left side and our navigation bar on the right side. So let's see what it looks like if we put the logo in the center. So it would have the logo in the center with the navigation bar right below it. And what if we wanted the logo on the right side? This is what that looks like. Now it's very rare that you'll see a website use this layout. Personally, I like the left side better just because people read from left to right, and I would much rather someone read my logo first. So the next thing you can do is you can change the width of the header, so you can make it full width. so that it stretches to the edge of your website. And this is what that looks like. But we're going to leave ours on content width. Now you can also increase the bottom border size, or you could completely get rid of it. Let's leave ours on 1. And you could also change the color of it. So let's say we wanted to make ours an orange. We could do that. But we're going to leave it clear. So the last thing to look at on this tab here is the mobile header layout. So let's go ahead and switch over to mobile view. And right now we have it set up as the inline layout, where it shows the logo on the left side and the menu on the right side. Now when we click on the menu, it opens it up like this. It's a drop-down menu, and you can click to close it. So let's try the other layout, which is the stack layout. And it basically puts the layout on top of the menu. So you can choose whichever one you want. We're going to go with the inline menu. And let's go back. And this also applies for tablet view as well. So let's go back over to desktop. And now let's go up to where it says primary menu. And your primary menu is this right here. It's basically the primary navigation menu. And it's how you jump around to different pages of your website. So the first option here to customize is that we could actually completely disable the primary menu. And this is useful if you don't have any pages on your website. Maybe you're just creating a portfolio website. You might not need the primary menu at the top. But let's go ahead and turn it back on. Now the other thing to take a look at here is we can actually customize the last item in the menu. So we could add a search button to the menu. And if people click on it, they can search for different things on your website. So maybe there's a blog post that they really want to read, or a page they're looking for. They can search for it in the box here. Now the other thing that you could add is a button. So this is useful if you want to add a sign up now button, or like a contact us button to your navigation bar that people can click on. So we could change the text to literally anything you want. We could have it say contact us. And then you can customize the link websitemakers.com/contact. So when they click on this, it'll take them to our contact page. And you can go in here and you can change the color of it. So we can make it whatever color you want. We could do like an orange, and we could change the text color. And when they hover over the button, we could do something like that. You know, you get the idea. You can literally customize this any way you want. Now the next thing you can customize is the sub menu. Now right now we don't have a sub menu set up, but a sub menu is essentially where you can click on a menu item here like blog, and then a drop down box would show up here with different options that you could click on. So maybe you have food blog, and then you have travel blog. That would be a sub menu. So you can customize those options here. Now the last thing to look at is mobile menu. So let's click over to mobile view, and we'll go ahead and click on our menu here. So under the mobile menu options, you can add things like a label. So if you wanted to call it menu, you could. And let's say you wanted to add a fill to the button style, you could. Or maybe you just want to outline it. Or you just want to do a minimal, like the little hamburger icon. Let's go ahead and get rid of the label though. So that is the primary menu customization options. So let's go ahead and go back. And let's look at the last thing, which is transparent header. And we'll go ahead and switch back over to desktop view. So let's say that you don't want to have a colored header at all. You just want it to be transparent. You could click on this button here, and it'll completely get rid of that. So the header will sit on whatever background is behind it. And this is useful if you have a picture as your background. The transparent header would literally sit on top of that. So your logo would sit on it, as well as your navigation menu. And you actually have the option to have it just on mobile or just on desktop, or you can have it on both. But personally, I like to keep my header on. just because I like the look of it. And as always, there's further customization options here where you can change colors and fonts. But that's pretty much all there is to customizing the header of your website. In the next few lessons, we're going to talk about customizing the sidebar and the footer of our website. As usual, just make sure that whenever you're done making changes that you click publish. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to customize the sidebar, which is the area on your website right here. So by default, the sidebar is automatically turned on for every page of our website, and you can actually customize it so that it turns off for certain pages. So let's go down to where it says sidebar, and we'll click on it. So at the top it says default layout, and this is where you can change the positioning of the sidebar. So right now it's set to be on the right side of our website. But let's look at the other options. So we could change it so that it sits on the left side. Now the way I like to set this up is I like to have it turned off for my home page. So in order to do that, we're going to turn it off under here, and we'll come down to where it says pages, and we'll turn it off here as well, just to make sure. So now let's go over to our blog page. And again, this is our blog archives page. So what we can do is we can come down to archives, and we can turn on the sidebar. We're going to put it on the right side. Now let's click on our blog post. And as you can see, the sidebar is currently turned off inside of the blog post. So now let's go to blog post, and we'll turn on the sidebar here too. So now we have our sidebar turned on for the individual blog post, and we can go up to blog, and it's on here as well. And you can actually change the width of the sidebar, so you can make it bigger, or you can make it a bit smaller. So now if we go home, as you can see, our home page does not have a sidebar. So this is how I personally like to set it up. So let's actually look at how to add different things to our sidebar. Let's go back to blog, and I'll show you how to change some of these things. So let's click back and go down to where it says widgets. And this is where you're going to go to add widgets to different areas of your website. So right now we have the option to customize the widgets that are on our sidebar. So let's go ahead and do that. So I think we're going to get rid of this widget right here. So let's go ahead and open up the drop-down box, and let's click remove. And let's do the same thing for archives. And we can remove it. And we'll do the exact same thing for comments. So now we just have a search widget, we have a recent post widget, and we have a categories widget. So let's skip search and let's go to recent post. And you could change this title if you want. So you could say from the blog. And you can actually change the number of posts you want to show. Right now it's only showing one, but that's because we've only created one blog post. If we had 5, it would show 5 different items here. And you can actually turn it on so that it shows the blog date if you want. Let's go ahead and expand the next one, which is categories. And this is where you could advertise different categories of your blog. So maybe you have a food blog category, you have a travel blog category, and maybe a car blog category. And people could click on whichever one they want, and it would take them to a page that shows all of those blogs related to that category. So you could actually change it so that there's a drop-down box. And when they click on it, it'll show all the blogs for that category. But we're going to go ahead and turn it off. And we could have it show the number of posts inside of that category. So that's it for those 3 widgets right there. What about if we want to add a completely new widget to the sidebar? Go ahead and click on add a new widget. And as you can see, there's tons of different things that we could add in here. Maybe we want to add just some text. We can add that widget. We'll title it just some text. Check out our new blog. Now let's say we want to add an image. We'll just insert that in. And you could use this as a way to add banners to your sidebar. So if you're trying to advertise a product or something like that, you could just add a picture here and create a link for it. And when people click on it, it'll take them to that page. So pretty cool. We'll go ahead and leave that there. So when you're done making changes to your sidebar, go ahead and click publish. So that pretty much sums up how to customize the sidebar. In the next lesson, I'm going to show you how to customize the footer, which is the very bottom section of your website. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to customize the footer of your website. So unlike the sidebar, the footer is visible across your entire website. So it doesn't matter what page you're on, you're always going to be able to see your footer. Let's go ahead and click on footer. Now there's actually two sections of the footer. There's this gray area here, which is what's known as the footer bar. And then there's the area above it, which is what's known as the footer widgets, which you can't actually see right this second. So let's go up to the top where it says footer widgets and we'll click on it. So right now the layout is disabled. So let's go ahead and turn it on. And as you can see, it's going to add a completely new area to the footer. And in this area, we can add 4 different widgets. So just like every other menu under the customizer, you can change the colors. So we could actually change the background color of this area. So if we wanted a white background, we could make it white. If we wanted a blue background, we can make it blue. Or maybe we want an orange to match our logo. So for now, we're actually going to keep it gray. So let's go ahead and click on clear. And it's going to undo the changes we made. So you could also add a top border. So if you wanted to separate the footer widgets and the content of your website, you could just add a border here. Go ahead and make it 0. And we could also change the content of the footer. So if we wanted to change the title color of these widgets, we could do that. And you could also change the link colors. So now that we've turned on the footer widgets, let's go back and let's go down to widgets. Now we can actually change what widgets are in these widget areas of the footer widgets bar. So let's go ahead and click on area 1, click on add a widget, and then we'll click on image. And we're just going to upload a white version of our logo. So we're going to go ahead and upload it. And then you're going to click on edit image because we want to crop it. So now click on the crop button and we're going to drag the left side in just a little bit. We're going to do the same thing with the top and bottom. And once you're done cropping, just click the crop button and then click save. So once you've uploaded it, just click on add to widget. And there we go. We now have a white version of our logo that sits on the gray background. And you could actually make it so whenever somebody clicks on this logo, it takes them back to the home page. Let's go ahead and copy our link address at the top. And we'll just paste it here. Whenever somebody clicks on this, it takes them to the home page. Let's go back to the blog. And we'll click on done. So now that we're done with widget area 1, let's click back and let's go into widget area number 2. And let's add a widget, and you can literally add anything you want here. So we could add something like pages, and that way there's a list of our pages that people can click on. Now we're probably going to change this later on once we actually have more on our website to work with. But for now, we'll leave it as pages. And then we'll click done. And let's go back and let's go to footer widget area 3. Then we'll click on add a widget and let's add categories. And you could title it anything you want, but let's go back and let's go to footer widget area 4. And let's add a widget and let's add recent posts. And let's change the title of this one to From the Blog. And you can actually change how many posts you want to show. So let's limit it to 3. And then we'll click done. Now we'll go back and we'll go back. So this is how you customize the footer widgets. So let's go back into footer and let's click on footer bar. Now the footer bar is the section below the footer widgets. And there's actually different layouts for this as well. So right now we have it set up as footer bar layout 1, where everything is kind of centered in the middle of the footer bar. So if we click on footer bar layout 2, it's basically dividing it into 2 blocks. So there's a section here that you can add stuff to, and there's a section here that you can add stuff to. So let's go ahead and add another section. And just as an example, we'll add some text. And let's change the layout to see what it looks like. Now I like it centered, so I think I'm going to leave it at that. And we're just going to get rid of the second section. So let's go back and we'll just turn this off. Now the other thing you could do is you could change the border size. So the border that separates the footer widgets and the footer bar, we can increase it, or we could decrease it. So I think for now we're going to leave it at 0. That way there's no border separating it. And the very last thing you could do is you could change the background color of the footer bar. So we could make this red, or we could even make it orange. Now the one thing I did forget to do is actually change the text of this section. So right now our footer bar is set up to say the current year along with our site title. So every year on January 1st, this copyright is going to update to the new year. But notice this text that says powered by Astra WordPress theme. Let's say we don't want that on our website. We want it to look professional. So let's come over here and we're just going to highlight this text here. And then we're going to backspace. As you can see, it got rid of it and it looks so much better. So when you're done, click publish. So that's how you customize the footer section of your website. So the last thing we're going to talk about in the theme customizer is how to properly set up your navigation bar. Now when we first started creating our pages, it automatically started setting up our navigation bar. But I'm going to show you how to customize it and kind of organize it in the way that you want. Now there's multiple ways to access the menus. So we're going to start off by going to where it says menus and clicking on it. So a menu is basically a set of links that lead to different pages of your website. And the one that we're going to set up is the primary menu, which is the one that sits at the very top of your website. So it says that our theme can display menus in 2 locations. So let's go ahead and click on view locations. So because we don't have a menu set up yet, we're going to go to where it says create new menu. And let's go ahead and name it primary navigation bar. And we'll make sure that we have selected primary menu and click next. So we've created our new menu. And as you can see, it actually got rid of the 2 links that were up here. But that's okay because we're about to add them back. So now let's go to where it says add items and click on it. And we're going to start off by adding this home custom link. We're going to add that to our menu. And then we're going to add our blog page right below it. And you can actually reorder them if you want. So now if you had other pages of your website, you could go ahead and add them to this menu. But we haven't set up any additional pages yet. Let's go ahead and add the pages that we're going to set up eventually. So we're going to eventually add a services page. So let's go ahead and add that one in. Now, as we type in these page names and click add, it's actually going to create these pages for us so that we don't have to go back into the WordPress dashboard and create a page that way. So it's kind of like a shortcut. And then we're going to add an about us page. And the last one we're going to do for now is contact us. And then we'll click add. So now that we've added all of these items into our menu, we can actually reorder them. So let's say we don't want blog to come second, we want services to be second. Let's go ahead and drag it in front of blog. And let's say that we actually wanted blog to be a sub-menu item of services. We could click and drag and then move it out just a little bit and place it under. So now it's created a sub-menu and blog is now under services. So maybe we offer graphic design, we offer web design, and video editing. We could have a submenu with links to those different pages. Now I'm not going to keep it that way, but that's just an example if that's something you want to do. Now the other thing you can do is you can actually change the label of that navigation item. So just because we named the page about us, we could change it to About. And let's say we want to do the exact same thing to the home page. So we can go and change the label of it, and let's call it Start Here. And that looks awesome. So once you're happy with the way your menu looks, go ahead and click Publish. And then we'll go back. Now the other thing I'm going to do is show you how to add the exact same kind of menu to the footer. So right now we have it set up to show our pages, but it's all out of order and it doesn't show the rest of the pages we just created. So let's go ahead and create a new menu, and we're going to call this one New Footer Menu. And because we're going to have this menu appear on the footer, let's go ahead and click Footer Menu. And then we'll click Next. So now we can start adding items to this menu. So we're going to do the exact same thing as we did before. We're going to add the home custom link. We're going to add services, blog, about us, and contact us. And we're going to change the labels on them again. And there we go. We finished our footer menu. So now we're going to go back. So now let's go down to widgets and let's go to footer widget area 2. And let's actually delete this one. And then we're going to click on add a widget. And we'll click on navigation menu. Select menu, new footer menu. And we'll just call it pages. And then we'll click publish. So the last thing I'm going to show you how to do is actually change the color of the links in your menu. So right now it's a dark blue, and every time we hover over the next one, it turns to that different color. So let's go to global and let's go to colors, and we'll click on base colors. And let's go to where it says link color. So now we're going to change this to match the theme that we currently have going on, which is an orange color. And as you can see, the color of that link has changed. Now when we hover over the different pages, we now have an orange color. It looks pretty cool. So once you've changed the color, just click publish. So now we have a fully functional navigation menu. And while creating that menu, we actually created new pages. Okay, so we're finally getting into the fun parts of building our website. In this lesson, we're going to be installing a plugin that's going to help us easily design our home page. Now, the Elementor Page Builder is a completely free drag and drop page builder, and it makes it really easy to visually customize your website. So you can drag things onto your website like text, images, videos, pretty much anything you can think of, you can do with Elementor. And it's just going to make the whole design process 10 times easier. So let's start off by going over to plugins and then click on add new. So now we're going to go to the search box and we're going to type in Elementor. And this is the plugin we're looking for right here. It's the Elementor Page Builder. And we're going to go ahead and click on install now. And once it's finished, go ahead and click activate. Alright, so as you can see, it says plugin activated. And let's scroll down. So here it is right here. And you can also see on the left side, you should now have this new menu item right here called Elementor. That's how you install plugins to your website. I'll go over a list of useful plugins in a different lecture. Alright, so now that we've installed the Elementor plugin, we're going to start using it to actually add content to our website's pages. So things like text, images, and videos. And the page that we're actually going to start off with is our home page. So let's go ahead and head on over to the Pages tab here on the sidebar, and we'll click on All Pages. So now under Home Page, we're going to go ahead and click on it. Now notice at the top, there's now a button that says Edit with Elementor. So when we click on it, it's going to reload our page with the Elementor page builder on the side. Now, before we start actually adding stuff onto our home page, I want to talk a little more about the Elementor side panel just to give you a better understanding of it. So to start things off, this is the Elementor side panel, and it's where you're going to be dragging and dropping different elements onto your website. And you can actually hide it by clicking this button, and this will give you a better idea of what your website looks like. So let's go ahead and open that back up. Now the two buttons up here, this one will take you into some of the settings. You really don't have to worry about going onto this page too often. But this next button right here will take you back to this home page every time. And this is where all the Elementor widgets are, which are basically just different things that you're going to drag and drop onto your site. Now notice under these widgets, there's a couple different options. There's basic, which are just kind of the more commonly used widgets that you'll drag and drop onto your site. So things like paragraph text, headings, images, videos, and buttons. And below that you have the Pro section. Now these are all elements that you can't use if you're using the free version of Elementor, but there's plenty of free stuff in here that you can drag and drop onto your site. So below Pro, there's actually more free options that you can drag onto your site. So things like image boxes, icon boxes, star ratings, testimonials. So again, these are all the things that you can drag and drop onto your website to kind of make it look better. Now the next thing we'll talk about is this bottom bar here. Now the bottom bar will take you into some of the settings for your page that you're on. So as you can see, we can change the title of the page here. And then notice at the top, there's three different tabs. There's settings, there's style, and advanced. And this is the same pretty much all the way across everything on Elementor. There's almost always going to be three tabs here at the top. There's going to be a way to change kind of the basic settings of it. There's going to be a way to change the style and kind of customize it, change colors, fonts, that kind of thing. And then there's the advanced tab where you're going to be able to change kind of the spacing. You'll be able to add coding if you're into that. And again, if we click this button, it'll take us right back to this home page. All right, so let's move on to the next one. The next one is Navigator. And this basically allows you to jump between different sections of your website. And it helps you kind of easily understand what is inside of each section. So to kind of give you a quick demonstration of this, I'll just add in a couple sections here. I'll just add in a couple different ones. And as you can see, as we add stuff into the site, under this navigation bar here, we can see the different sections that we've added. So under the first section here at the top, it shows three different columns. And we could actually click on that and we could jump right to it just by clicking on it. So it's definitely very useful in helping you navigate through your website, especially once you have a lot more content on it. So a lot more text and images and a lot more sections. It'll just help you kind of jump through and kind of remember how things are laid out. So let's go ahead and exit out of this. Let's go back to the Elementor homepage here. And let's move on to the next option, which is history. So with history, it allows you to undo and redo recent changes that you've made to your website. So if you've added something or you've messed up, you can simply click on the previous version of it and it'll take you right back to how it looked before. So as you can see, it made note that we added those three sections. So let's click on the previous one. And as you can see, it got rid of that last section we added. And let's do it again. And we'll do it one more time. So now it takes us back to that very first version that we had of our website. So again, if you mess up while making your website, don't worry, you can simply go to the history tab and just undo that change. So let's move on to the next one, which is responsive mode. And this just allows you to view your website on different mobile devices. So like phone and tablet. So to quickly demonstrate, I'll just click on tablet. And this is extremely useful because once you kind of finished your website on desktop, you want to go back and make sure it looks good on mobile too, because 50% of your website traffic is going to come from people on their phones. So you want to make sure it looks good on every device. So Elementor does a pretty good job of taking care of this for you, but there are going to be some things that you'll want to go back and adjust the sizing of. Like this logo, for instance, we could probably reduce the size of it just a little bit. And I'll show you how to make these changes later on. So let's go ahead and switch back over to desktop mode. And we'll go ahead and click out of this box. So the last option here is preview changes. And this basically allows you to load your website without the side panel here. So let's go ahead and click on it. And it'll open up a new tab with our website. It just allows you to view your website without actually having to publish it. So the very last thing here is the update button. Now, when you're making changes to your website, you definitely want to be updating as much as possible, just in case, your internet goes out or your laptop dies, something like that. You just want to make sure you're saving your progress. So that's pretty much all there is to the Elementor side panel. I know it might look a little intimidating now, but I promise once you start using it, it'll all make sense. So in the next 2 lectures, I'm going to show you the 2 different ways that you can build your pages. And that's going to be either from scratch, or you can simply import a website template and then just customize it to fit your website. Okay, so we've covered the Elementor side panel and kind of where to find everything. And as I mentioned in the last lecture, there's actually 2 ways that you can build out your website's pages. And that's going to be either from scratch, or you can import pre-built pages onto your page and then simply change out the content, change the photos, change the text, and then kind of customize it to fit your website. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to start designing your page from scratch. So the very first thing you want to start off by doing is adding sections onto your page. And you can do that by clicking this cross button right here. So when you click it, it's going to give you an option to select the structure of that section. And as you can see, there's about 10 different options here that you can select from. And it really just kind of depends on what kind of widgets here on the side you're going to drag into that section. But we're actually going to start off with this section right here. So let's go ahead and click on it. Now it doesn't look like much right now, but what we're going to do is we're going to drag some of those widgets inside of that section. And before we drag something into that section, let's talk about the structure of this section. So the section itself is indicated by this blue box around it. Now inside of this section we have one single column, and inside of the column is where you're going to be able to drag different widgets inside. It's where your content is going to go. So let's go ahead and add one of these Elementor widgets inside of our section in our column. So let's click and drag a heading right into our website. And as you can see, it's going to go inside of the column, not the section. So let's click and drag, and then we'll just drop it right in. And now we can go ahead and change this text here. And let's say we make websites. And let's go ahead and customize it a little bit. So we'll come down to alignment, and here we can make it left aligned, we can center it, we can right align it, but let's go ahead and keep it on center. So now we've finished everything on the content settings, so let's head on over to the style settings. And here we can customize things like the text color, we can change the font, the size of the font. So let's start off by going into text color, and let's give it kind of a dark gray, somewhere like right there. And when you're done choosing your color, you can just click out of it. So now let's open up the typography settings. And here we can change the font. There's tons of different fonts you can choose from. You can even search for different fonts if there's one that you want. And the next option here is the sizing. So we can make it bigger. We can make it smaller. Let's do about 50. And below that, we can actually change the weight of the font. So if we wanted it to be more bold, we can select that option here. Maybe we want it to be really light. We can do that. Let's go for about a 700. And there's tons of other options here. Like you can make it uppercase. You can make all the text lowercase, capitalize it. There's literally tons of different options here that you can mess around with. So let's go ahead and click out of the typography settings. And I think that's all the settings we're going to change for now. So now if we look at our section here, we can kind of better understand how it's made up. So again, here's the section. Inside of that section, we have the column, the dashed box inside of it. Then inside our column, we have our widget here, which is our heading. And if we open up the navigator, you can easily see that here. So here's the section. Here's the column, and here is the heading. And notice how when we click on these, it opens up the different settings for each one. So again, this isn't necessary, but it's super helpful in kind of jumping around between the different elements of your website. So let's go back and let's add one more thing into this section. Let's add some paragraph text. So we're going to click and drag the text editor right under our heading. And as you can see, it places it right beneath it. And we can change this text to need a website. We'll make you one. And now with the paragraph text, you can actually change it as you would in pretty much any other word processing program. So if you wanted to bold it, you could do it right here rather than going into the typography settings and changing it that way. But let's go ahead and head on over to the Style tab, and we'll change the alignment to center, and we can change the text color. We'll make it a little bit darker, something like that. And let's go into the typography settings, and we'll just increase the size a little bit to about 24. That looks good. So now that we've finished with our typography settings, we can go back to the main menu here. So now let's hover over our section, and we'll come up here to edit section, and this is going to open up our settings. And let's head on over to the Style tab. And let's quickly add a background to this. We'll make it a colored background. So we'll click on Classic, and we'll click on Color. And let's just add kind of an orange somewhere in here. All right. So now we have this orange background to this section. And then after you finish that section, you just kind of move on to the next one. So then you could add in some images here, maybe another image there, and then just some text in between it. So this is one way of building your pages. Obviously, there's a lot more I would do to this if I were to continue building from scratch. But I just wanted to give you a very basic understanding of how to do it, how it works. In the next lecture, I'll show you the second way of building pages, and that's by using templates. In this lesson, I'm going to show you another way of building pages by importing pre-built templates into your website. Now, these templates make putting together websites really easy because they kind of lay out the structure for you. They take care of all the font, the colors, and the spacing. So all you have to do is go in and just swap out the photos, swap out the text, and just really make it match your business or your brand. Now, these templates are actually free to use. There's a lot of paid ones that you can get as well, but the ones that we're going to be using in this course are actually free. So in order to import one of these onto your site, instead of clicking Add New Section, we're going to click this folder icon here that says Add Template. And at the top, there's three options. There's blocks, there's pages, and there's My Templates. Now, blocks are just individual sections that you can insert into your website, as opposed to full pages where you can import an entire page on your site. And then My Templates are any templates that you have personally saved that you want to be able to share with other people, or maybe you want to save it and then upload it onto a different page of your website. You can actually sort by new, trending, and popular. So let's look under popular, and let's take a look at the first one here. This says homepage restaurant. So if we just click on the image, it'll actually load a preview of it, and we can scroll through and see what this page looks like. And if we end up liking it, we can just click the green insert button here, and it'll put it right onto our page. But let's go back to the library. So let's say you're not working on a homepage. Maybe you're working on a contact page. So we can type in contact, and this will bring up a bunch of pages that are specifically made for contact pages. So here's a cool one right here. It's a contact us page for a delivery company. There's a big photo here at the top with some text. There's a contact form. Google Maps is even integrated onto this page. And then you've got some useful information like the opening hours, the phone number, and another call to action down here. So for this short little video, we're actually going to import this page right here. It's a home page, and it says study. So we're going to click on it. So let's just scroll through real quick and we'll come up to the top here. We'll click on the green insert button. Let's go ahead and pause this video and we'll quickly scroll through just to make sure everything's here. And let's actually hide the panel real quick. So just like that, we have an entire page already put on our website ready to be customized. So now we can go in and we can change some of this text. So let's actually come in here and we'll change this to "We make websites." And then we can click into our paragraph here and we can go back and we'll say, "Need a website? We'll make one for you." Just like our last lesson. So let's come up to the section here and we're actually going to quickly change the color of this. So we'll actually go down to background overlay. And right now it's set as this purple haze kind of color. So let's go in and let's go to kind of an orange color. So somewhere in here. And do like a darker kind of color, like right there. So now let's scroll down to one of these other sections down here. Let's go to this one right here. I'm actually going to change some of the information here. So we'll click on Donald Martin and I'm going to put my name right here. And let's click on the next option here. And let's change this to WordPress instructor. And then we can click on the paragraph and we can change some of this here as well. Then we'll come down to the last section down here and we'll do the same thing that we did at the top. We'll come in here, we'll go down to background overlay. This one doesn't actually have one, so let's add in a classic and let's go to orange. We could even change the color of this square here. So let's make this kind of an orange as well. Like right there, that looks good. And so there we go. Now we've changed a lot of the colors on the site. We've changed some of the text on the website. And again, we've changed some more of the colors towards the bottom. Now, just like the last lesson, there's still a lot that I would do to this page to make it look a lot better. But this is just to give you an idea of the two different ways that you can start to build your pages on your website. So you can either start from scratch, or you can do it like this, where you just import a pre-built page onto your site and then start to customize it. So in the next lecture, we're going to combine these two methods and really start to build a home page for our website. So in this lesson, we're going to be combining both methods of building a page, and we're actually going to start putting our home page together. So we've gone ahead and deleted everything that we had on the page before, simply by hitting the X icon on each section. So now let's go ahead and click on this folder icon, because I'm going to import an entire page into the site, and then we're going to start editing each section. So the one I've picked out is this one right here. It's Homepage Agency. It's a full page and it relates kind of to the website we're building, and that's kind of why I'm choosing it. But it's got quite a few sections here. So we're going to import this into our site and then we're going to start customizing it. So let's go up to the top here where the green insert button is and let's click on it. All right, so now we have this fully built page on our website. So what we're going to do is we're going to start from the top and we're just going to customize some of the stuff and work our way towards the bottom. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this heading here and we're going to change this. So let's go into the text box here and let's change it to say "We make websites." All right, so now that we've changed that, let's go into the Style tab. And now we're going to customize some of the style settings for this text. So we're going to leave the text color on white and let's go into typography and let's go ahead and increase the size of this text a little bit. So let's just drag it up and we'll make it about 65 and let's change the weight of this. Let's make it a little bit more bold. That looks 10 times better in my opinion. So now we can make it so that the text is all lowercase, or we can make it default or normal. So let's keep it on default And that looks pretty good right there. So let's click out of this and let's go ahead and move on to the next thing we're going to edit. So let's click on this divider here and let's change the settings of this a little bit. So we can make the width a little bit wider. Let's make it about 20. And now we can change the alignment of it if we wanted to, but let's keep it on center. We could also change the style of it so it could be like a double line, or we could have like a wavy line, but let's leave it on solid. And now we're going to go into the style tab and let's change the color of this. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my hex color for my orange and I'm going to paste it right here. Got it pulled off on the side on my extra monitor. So there we go. Now it is an orange divider. Okay, so that looks awesome. So now we could change the gap between the top and bottom of the divider. So we could make it a little bit tighter, or we could add some more space to it. Let's leave it about 25. That looks good right there. And we could also make it so that the divider itself is a little thicker. So we can make it more bold, if you will. But let's leave it about 5. I think that's a good spot right there. All right, so we're finished with that. So let's go ahead and click on the paragraph down here. And we'll change this text to say, need a website, we'll make one for you. And let's go to style and let's change some of the style settings for this. So let's go into typography and let's increase the size of this text. So we'll make it slightly smaller than the heading. Let's do 28. And something I'm going to do for this is I'm actually going to make this text a little bit lighter, just to kind of bring out the heading a little more. And that looks pretty good right there. And let's move on to the next section, which is this image carousel right here. So this is a great way to display a bunch of different logos, maybe people or other companies that you work with, or just images in general. So right now it's set up to show a bunch of random logos, and I'm going to add in a couple of my own. So we're going to go ahead and click in here, and we're going to click on Add to Gallery. So now we can click on Upload Files, and I'm just going to add in a couple logos here. So these are going to act as kind of social proof. So we've got Google reviews, we've got Facebook reviews, we've got Yelp, and we have Yellow Pages. Now these don't entirely relate to the website we're building, but I'm just going to add it in kind of as an example. So once you've got them selected, we're going to click Add to Gallery, and it's going to pretty much add them right into that carousel. Now let's go ahead and remove some of these logos. So let's go ahead and get rid of a couple of them. And that looks fine right there. And as you can see, our logos were put right into the carousel here. So now we could change some of the settings. So maybe we want to show just 5. We can do that. And notice how the images get bigger the less that are in there. So we'll leave it at that. That looks fine right there. So now let's move on to the next section. So this is kind of a testimonial section. I'm not going to worry about this one too much. Preferably, I don't really want it at the top. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to move this section down to the bottom of our website. So we're going to hover over the section here, and where the 3 icons are, we're going to click on this icon right here, which is Edit Section, and we're just going to click and drag all the way down to the bottom of the website. We're actually going to put it below this one right here. And while we're down here, let's go ahead and delete this section. So let's hover over it and we'll click the blue X. And that's going to get rid of it. All right, so we've moved it. So let's scroll all the way back up to the top of our website. So now let's work on these next 3 sections. So the very first thing I want to do is I want to change the text in these headings. So we're going to start off with this first one here. So let's click on it. And let's click and drag and we'll just get rid of this text. So we're actually going to put logo design because I think that kind of represents this image. So we're going to make it logo design, and let's go on over to the style tab now. And we're going to leave the text color the same, but let's go ahead and open up the typography settings. And what we're going to do is we're going to change the weight of this text to 500. It's going to make it slightly more bold. And I really like the look of that. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come down to the next section here. And let's go ahead and change the text to this one. I think this image kind of represents SEO. So let's go ahead and make it that. So let's go ahead and do the same thing. We'll go to the Style tab. And let's go into Typography. And let's go to Weight. And we'll make it 500. And that looks good. So we'll go ahead and click out. And let's do the same thing for the last section down here. So let's scroll down. And let's click in this box and let's get rid of this text. And I think this image right here kind of looks like web design. So we're going to call it web design. And we'll do the same thing. Go to Style, Typography, go to Weight, and we'll make it 500. And that looks pretty good. So we've changed our text. We've made it a little bit more bold. I think that looks awesome. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to come up to the top section here. And let's go ahead and change this divider. I actually want to move it so that it's below the heading and it separates the heading and the paragraph. So we're just going to click on it and we're going to drag it right below the header. And so now it's separating these two sections of text. So let's go ahead and open up the panel again. We'll make sure that we're clicked on our divider here and let's change some of the settings for the divider. First thing we're going to do is go to the Content tab and let's adjust the width of this divider. So we're going to make it about, let's do about a 25. Actually, let's do 30. And then we'll go into the Style tab and let's change the color of it to the orange. And that looks good right there. Now we're going to do the exact same thing for these other dividers. I'm going to show you a cool little trick you can do if you're going to be doing the same thing for a bunch of different elements like we're about to for the dividers. What you can do is you can right click on the one that you want to copy and we'll click on copy and then come down to the one that you want to paste the same settings to. So we're going to do this divider right here and we're going to hover over it. We're going to right click on it and we'll click paste style. And it's going to copy those exact same settings from the first one and it's going to paste it onto the second one. And now all we have to do is just click and drag and put it right below our heading. So now we're going to do the exact same thing for the last section here. We're going to click on this divider and then we're going to click paste style. And then we're going to click and drag it right below web design. And just like that, we've changed all three dividers and we've done it very easily. The next thing I want to change is this read more text right here. So let's go ahead and make sure that we click on it and we're going to go into the text box and let's actually change it to say learn more. And we're going to come down to where it says link and we're going to type in services and then we're going to click on services page. And what this is going to do is if anybody were to click on this, it'll take them to our services page. And you can see in the bottom left hand side of the screen that there's now a link on this specific line of text that will take somebody to our services page if they were to click on this. So let's go ahead and open this back up and let's go ahead and change the color of this text to the orange. So let's go to Style, Text Color, and we'll make it the orange. We can click out. And that looks good right there. So let's do the exact same thing to the next sections. And all we're going to do now is we're going to copy the style and we're going to come down. First click on this, make sure we have it activated. And then we're going to right click and then click paste style. Now notice how it did not change the actual text. It just changed the color or the style settings. So we still have to go in here and we have to change this to say learn more. So let's do that again for the last section. Make sure we click on it, click paste style, then we'll come in and we'll change the text. So the last thing we need to do is make sure that these buttons link to our services page. And let's do the exact same thing for the last one. So now that we've customized these sections, I want to actually reorder them. Because our website is kind of more along the lines of building websites, I don't necessarily want logo design at the top. And what I want to do is I want to put web design first. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the web design section and we're just going to drag it up here to the top. And as you can see, now we have web design, we've got logo design, and we have SEO. But notice how the colors are a little bit off. We had a theme going on where it was white, gray, but now we've kind of messed it up and we've put gray, gray, white. So let's go ahead and fix it. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to click and drag on the logo section, and we're going to move that down below our SEO section. So let's go ahead and click on it, and we'll drag it right down here. So now we have our web design section, we've got our SEO section, and we have our logo design section. All right, so I think that pretty much sums up the things I want to do to these sections at the top. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one, which is fall in love with our features. So we're going to click back on there, and let's go ahead and click into this heading right here because I want to change this text. So we're going to go ahead and highlight it, press backspace to get rid of it, and let's change it to what we offer, because this is where we're going to list some of the other services that our business offers. So now let's go into the style tab, and let's go into typography, and let's change the weight to 500 because we want it to match the other headings up here. And we'll leave the size alone. So we're pretty much done with that heading. So let's click out. And now what we're going to do is we're going to come in here, and we're not going to copy the style settings for this divider because it would make it left aligned. So we're just going to go in and change the color. So let's go to style, and we'll click on this. We'll paste our color right there. And we're done with that. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to change some of these headings to kind of describe some different services that we might offer. So I'm going to click on the first one here, and just judging by the picture, I'm going to assume this is something to do with marketing. So we're going to change this to social media marketing. And let's move on to the next one. And let's change this one to SEO. And let's go down to this one, and we'll change this to e-commerce. And let's go to this next one over here. And this looks like a phone, so let's change this one to app development. And we'll click on the next one, which looks like email, so we'll say email marketing. And let's click on the last one, and let's just call this one web design. All right, so we've changed all the text. Now let's go ahead and customize the color of it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna change this color to a black, but I wanna make sure that the color matches the other black headings that we have. So let's go in here, and let's go ahead and click on this color, which is this code right here. We're gonna press Control-C to copy it, and then we're gonna come down here. We're gonna click on this heading here, and let's go to Style. And notice how you don't see any of the color settings here. You just have to come down to content. So it's separating the two different settings by the image and then the content. So make sure that you click on content, come down to title, and we'll go to color, and let's just paste that same color right there. So now we've done the hard part. So now all we have to do is right click, we'll click on copy, and we'll just paste the style into each other box here. All right, so now we've changed all the color there. That looks pretty smooth. Now, the last thing I want to do to this section is I want to reorder these different services. So let's say I want web design to be on this side. All I'm going to do is click on it and then drag it up here, right above social media marketing. And let's go ahead and move social media marketing over to the right side. So we'll put this right here in the middle. Coming back over to the left side, let's say I want e-commerce to be above SEO. We'll just drag it right above. And let's say we want email marketing at the top, and we want app development at the bottom. So all you have to do is just click and drag to reorder them. And that looks pretty cool right there. So we finished with that section. So let's move on to the next one. So now we've got a heading, we've got some paragraph text right below that, and then we have a button. And this is the first real button we've seen. Let's go ahead and click on the heading because that's what we're going to change first. The only thing I'm going to change about this is I'm going to come in and I'm going to add "Let's make a beautiful website." And that looks good to me, so I'm going to leave it there. So now let's go in and we'll change this text right here. So we'll click on it. And let's go ahead and highlight the text. We'll delete it. And let's say, "We'll get busy building your website today." You could increase the size of the text if you wanted or do anything else. So let's see what increasing the size looks like just a little bit. We'll make it 23. That looks good. And we'll click out of it. Now the last thing we're going to edit in this section is actually the button. So go ahead and click on the button. And we're going to change the text of the button to say "Contact us." So we're going to go in this box here and we'll just change it to say "Contact us." So now we want to describe the action that happens whenever somebody clicks on the button. So we're going to come down to where it says "Link" and we're going to change this to send people to our contact page. So we're going to type "contact" and it's going to find our contact page. So let's just click on it. So now if somebody were to click on this contact button, as you can see in the bottom left, there's now that link on this button where if we click on it, it'll take us right to our contact page. So the very last thing I want to do with this button is I just want to customize the style of it. So let's go to the Style tab and let's go down to background color and let's change it to orange and we'll click out of it. Now notice what happens if we hover over the button, it changes to that last color we had. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here where it says normal and hover. So we change the color of normal, but we still have to change hover. So click on hover and go to background color. And we're going to make the same color. So now if we hover over it, nothing really happens. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this a darker orange, somewhere like right there. So now if you hover over it, the button gets slightly darker. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the spacing of the text inside the button. Let's click on typography and let's go ahead and adjust the letter spacing. So let's bring it down just a little bit and we'll do about, let's do a 2. That looks good right there. So let's check it out real quick. So if we hover over the button, slightly darker just to indicate that this button actually does something. So now that section is done as well. And the final section down here is the one that was initially at the top of our page. So when you're done making changes, just make sure you click the update button to save your work. So in the next lesson, we're actually going to be importing some other sections into our website, and we're also going to build a couple sections of our own. So in this lesson, we're going to start off by adding some text and some content into this section. So the first thing is we're going to make sure we're in our Elementor main menu here by clicking this button. And we're going to come down to where it says heading, and we're just going to click and drag it right inside of here. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to add in a text editor right below it. Now that we have our 2 sections in here, I'm going to go in and I'm going to change the heading. So let's click on it. And we're going to make this kind of a short and sweet about us section. And then we'll come down to the paragraph. We'll say website makers was founded by Michael Gates in 2020. And then we'll just pretend that we wrote the rest of this description here. So let's go ahead and copy this and we'll just paste it to kind of fill it out a little bit more. So now we can go in and change the style settings. But what I'm going to do is what we've been doing. I'm just going to copy the style settings for this heading. And we'll come down to this one and we'll just paste it right here. Notice how it made it so that it's centered. We're going to make it so it's left aligned. So let's go back and click on the settings for it. We'll go to content, go down to alignment, and we'll just make sure we left aligned it. All right, and let's do the same thing for the paragraph because I did notice that the paragraph is slightly different than the other ones. So let's come up to the top, all the way up to this one, and we'll copy the style settings for this. And we'll scroll down. And let's just paste the style settings here. Now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy one of those dividers or duplicate them. So let's scroll up and we'll right click, click duplicate, and we now have another one. So let's just click and drag, and we'll drag it right on down here. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to add in an image right here. Alright, so in this lesson I'm going to show you how to add images and videos to your website. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here, make sure that we're on our Elementor main menu, and we're going to click on the image widget right here at the top, and we're just going to click and drag right onto our website. So now we have this image placeholder here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come into these settings and we're going to click on choose image. And this is going to open up our media library, but we don't have the image on here yet. So we're going to go to upload files. And if you had a file, you could just drag it in or you could search for it. But what we're actually going to do is we're going to go to a free stock photo website and we're going to find an image that we want. So we're going to go to a website like Unsplash or like Pexels. These are two really cool resources that you can use to get free images. And some of these actually have videos on them as well that you can use. So let's go ahead and start off by searching for something like office. And let's go ahead and look through and find something we like. Because this is a about us section we're building, I want something that kind of represents like a team. I like this one though. Let's go with this one. So we'll click on it to open it. And up here at the top right, there's a download button. As you can see, it says download free. Click on the arrow and we're going to go with the medium sized. If we went with the original size, that's a couple times larger than we actually need for our website. So click on medium and it's going to download that image. Now before we actually put it on our website, we're going to go to this other website called TinyJPEG. And what this does is it's going to compress that image, make the file size a lot smaller. That way, when you put it on your website, it doesn't take your website as long to load. So all you have to do is come down to where you just downloaded the file, and we're just going to click and drag and drop it right here. And notice how the image was 670 KB, and it's basically compressed the file in half to 50%. So now you can go ahead and click on download. And you want to be doing this for any image you intend to put on your website because it's really going to help keep your website fast. If you have too many large photos on your website, it's going to take up a lot of storage and it's going to make your website really slow. So make sure that you're optimizing your photos. So once you've downloaded the new version of that file, let's head on back over to our website. And now we're just going to click and drag right in here. So let's go ahead and insert the image. So now we have this nice image on our website right next to our text. So one last thing we're going to do in this lesson is we're going to come up to this section right here, and we're actually going to change the background image of this section. So go ahead and click on Edit Section, then we'll go into Style, and we're going to click on this image right here. So again, if you had the image already here, all you would have to do is click on it and then Insert, but we're going to go ahead and upload a new one. So let's click on Upload Files. And let's go back and find another image we can add. So I kind of like this one right here, so we'll click on it. And then we'll go over to the download button again, and we'll click on medium. It's going to download that file. And let's go back over to TinyJPEG, and we'll just click and drag it right into the box. It's going to compress that file for us by 53%. And we'll click on download. Now we have our new file. So let's head back on over to our website and we'll click and drag and drop right into our site. So we can exit out of that and let's insert the image into the background. So that's how you change background photos for your sections. So now I'm going to show you how to add videos into your website. So just for an example, I'm going to duplicate this section right here. And let's go ahead and delete this image right here. So let's say we wanted to add a video instead of an image. We could just come over here, click on video, and just drag it right here. And instead of an image, it's going to put a video placeholder right here. So if we clicked on it, it would play this nice little video. But we can actually swap this video out for something different. So let's go over to YouTube. Let's just look up GoPro demo. And we'll click on this one right here. And we're going to copy the link of this video. We're going to go back to our website. And we'll just paste it right here. So now we have this GoPro video right on our website. So the very last thing I'm going to show you how to do is actually make it so this video plays as a background. So let's click on our history button and let's go back a couple stages. So we'll go back to where we added the video, then we'll go back to where we removed the image, and let's go back to where we had our image. So now what we're going to do is let's click on our settings here for this section. Let's go to style, we'll go to background type. This time we're going to click on video. Now let's paste the link to that same video. And now we have this video as our background. So let's go into layout. Let's change the height to fit to screen. And we could go in and change the text colors so that we can see them. So we can make them white. We can do the same thing for the paragraph. We can make this one white as well. And if you wanted to, you could actually just get rid of this right here. So now we just have this video with some text on it. So pretty cool. So let's go ahead and open up our section again. So this is how you add images and videos to your website. In the next lesson, I'll show you some of the other Elementor widgets you can use for your website. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about spacing. Now, when it comes to spacing, there's actually two types. There's margin and then there's padding. And in this lesson, I'll show you the differences between the two. So we just built this brand new section, but the spacing is not quite like the other sections. It's a little bit tight up against this testimonial section. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some space in between these two sections. So let's open back up our Elementor editor and let's make sure that we click into these settings for this section. So starting off, the very first thing you could do is you could just come into the layout tab. You could go down to height and you could change this to min height and adjust the height this way. And this is going to add some space to it just like that. This is the simplest way to do it. Or you could do fit to screen, which fits this entire section to the size of your screen. We're going to stick with default for now because I want to show you the difference between margin and padding. So if you're trying to add space in between anything on your website, you want to be doing that under the Advanced tab. So let's click on the Advanced tab. Now this is where you find margin and padding. So the difference between the two is that margin is adding space outside of that section, whereas padding is going to be adding spacing inside of that section. So to give you a quick example, let's go ahead and unlink these values together so that we can change the spacing for each thing one by one. So let's go ahead and unlink it. And if we add 50 space to the top, as you can see, it added space outside of that section. So now let's come down to padding and let's unlink it. So let's add the exact same amount of space to the padding. So notice how when we add 50 to the padding, it adds space on the inside of this section. So margin is space outside, padding is space on the inside. And this works for top, bottom, left, and right. So let's add 50 padding to the top, and we'll add 50 padding to the bottom, and let's add 500 padding to the right, and let's just do 500 to the left. So as you can see, by adding padding, we added this space on the inside that has kind of compressed all of our content towards the middle. So feel free to play around with this however you want. Typically, I don't adjust the right and left sides. I typically stick with just the top and bottom. So for example, I would add probably about 100 padding to the top and somewhere around 100 towards the bottom, just to kind of even it out. And just like that, we've added some space to the top and bottom of this section. And if we scroll up, it kind of looks uniform with most of the other sections. Now again, this is one way of doing it. The other way is you could just switch it over to min height and adjust it that way. So that's how you adjust the spacing for sections. And this works the exact same for columns and widgets. So if we went in and clicked on our image and we went over to the advanced tab, and if we unlinked both of the values, let's add some padding to the top. We'll do 100. As you can see, inside of this widget, we've added some space inside of it. And as you can see, we've added some space inside of that widget. We could do the exact same thing to the bottom. So again, this works with any widget, any column, and any section. This is how you change the spacing for all of that. And this is going to come in handy once we start optimizing our website for mobile devices, because we'll most likely have to adjust spacing and sizing of different things to make sure it fits on our phones. So as always, once you're done editing, just make sure you click the update button. So in this lesson, I'm going to show you some of the other Elementor widgets that you can drag and drop onto your website. So let's just go ahead and create a new section here, and we'll choose this structure right here. And let's actually make it so that it fits the screen so we can see the different sections. All right, so now let's go back over to the Elementor main menu, and let's take a look at some of the other widgets we could add. So starting with the basic ones. So the very first one is intersection. And what this does is it allows you to add a section inside of another section. So looking at it from this view, we have this big section here. We have the column inside of that section. And now inside of that column, we have another section here with two columns inside of that. It can get really confusing, I know, but the more you use Elementor, the more you'll find this useful. So let's go ahead and close this section here. We'll delete it. And as you know, you can add in buttons. We can add in dividers. We've seen this already. There's spacers. This is a good one. So we could add in some space in between each one. It's just white space. And we can adjust it to add more or less. Let's go back. One cool thing is that you can add in a Google Maps feature. So if you're creating a website for your business, you could link it directly to your business location. Just add in the Las Vegas Strip, and it's going to automatically find that for us. And we could zoom in, and it puts us right here on the strip, and it's interactive. So somebody could click on this and drag around and see what's around it. They can zoom out. It's literally just Google Maps put on your website. It's really cool. So let's go back to the main menu, and something else you can add is an icon, and you can literally come in and change this to anything you want. There's a whole library of different icons you can add. So maybe we wanted to add a phone. We could do that and just insert it here, and we now have a phone icon on our website. Let's go back to the main menu. And like I said previously, this next section of widgets, you do have to pay to use these. But if you close this section right here, you'll find a whole new section of free ones that you can use. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of them. This one right here is the image box. So let's drag that in. And this basically allows you to put an image along with some text right below it. And it's all combined into one widget. So we could go in and we could customize this. This is an image box, and we could change the text below this, and we could change the style settings as usual. So let's come down and let's take a look at the next one. We've got an icon box, which is similar to the image box, but you have an icon instead. So again, we could come in and we could change this to pretty much anything you want. Yeah, we could do something like this. We could add a map icon here, and we could change the title to say something like location, and then we could add our address in here. So let's go back to the main menu. Let's take a look at some of the other ones. So we've got star rating. So we could add some stars in here. So let's go into style, and we'll make the sizing a little bigger. And let's go back to content, and we can adjust the rating. So maybe we wanted to give ourselves 3 stars instead of 5 for whatever reason. We could do that. So that's another widget that you could add. There's the image carousel, which we've already seen. There's the photo gallery, which we already have on our website as well. Here's another one, which is icon list. So you can have an icon and then you can have some text right beside it. And this is all fully customizable. So you can change the text to say something that you want. You could have it say address. You could change this to say phone number. And then of course you could change the icon to whatever you want. So going back, here are some other ones that you can add in. We've got a progress bar, which we've seen as well. It's just in a different style. What else do we have? We've got a counter, which is what we added earlier. You can add a testimonial and customize the settings for it. You can add images for that person. There's toggle buttons, there's tabs. So like we could have some information under this tab. We could have it so they can click on the next tab and view more information. There's also the toggle buttons. So it's similar to the tabs, but they open up and down like this. There's also the accordion, which is very similar, but it opens one of them at a time. Then of course you can add something in like social icons, and then you can link them to your social media profiles simply by adding a link to it right here. And you can customize these for any other icon that you want. So we could look up Twitter or Twitch. Let's add in a Twitch one. So now we have a Twitch icon. There's literally tons of different widgets that you can add in to really customize your website. And this was just a quick demonstration of some of them, and we may cover more of these later as we finish building our website. All right, so in this lesson, we're going to start putting together our products or services page. And as you can see, we're starting back off here in our dashboard. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to head on over to the Pages tab. And we're going to click on All Pages. So now let's find the services page that we created earlier, and we're just going to click on Edit. So it's loaded our services page with the Gutenberg editor, but we want to use the Elementor page builder again. So all we have to do is come up to this button right here that says Edit with Elementor and click on it. And in a few seconds, it'll load our page with the Elementor page builder. All right, so now our page is loaded and we're ready to start designing it. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start building this by creating a new section. So we're going to click on the plus icon and we're just going to add this one right here. And now we're going to adjust the spacing of it so that it's not so crammed up here at the top. And the way we're going to do this is we're actually going to change the height of the section right here to min height. And this is automatically going to open it up so that we have a lot more room to work with in here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add a background to this section. So what you could do is you could add another stock photo from one of those websites we used earlier, like Pexels or Unsplash, or you could use a website like this where you can find gradients and other colorful backgrounds that you can download for free. And that's what we're going to do in this lesson. So the website is called gradienta.io. And as I said, these are all free to download and use. So we're just going to scroll through and find one we like. And we'll click on load more. And I like this one right here because it has the orange with it. And if you click on it, it'll actually show you kind of a preview of what it would look like on your website, which is really cool. So all we're going to do is we're going to click download JPEG. You can also change the file type. So if you want it in PNG or SVG, you could download it that way. We're going to keep it at 3x2 and we're going to download it as a JPEG. So as we talked about in a previous lesson, any image that you intend to upload to your website, you want to make sure that you're optimizing them. So we're going to head on over to Tiny JPEG and we're going to compress this image. So we'll just drag and drop it. And as you can see, it reduced the file size by 96%. So we'll go ahead and click on download. And now we can head back on over to our website. And let's make sure that we've clicked on our section settings here. We'll head on over to the Style tab. Let's go to background type. We'll click on Classic, and then we'll go down to Image, and then we'll go to Upload Files, and then we'll just drag that new image right here. Okay, so once it's finished uploading the image, we can go ahead and click on Insert Media. And there we go. We now have that nice colorful background on our website. But notice how it's kind of cutting off the orange here. So what we can do is we can come down to Size, and we can change this to Cover. And now we can see the orange on the side here. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Attachment, and we're going to add a nice fixed effect. So if we were to scroll now with the way it is, the background kind of stays there without moving. So let's see what happens if we change this to fixed. It kind of moves with the scroll, which I think is really cool. So we're going to keep it with that. All right, so now we have our section sorted out. We've got a nice background over it. So let's go ahead and start adding stuff into the column here. So the first widget we're going to add is a heading. So we'll just click and drag. And let's name this Our Services. And let's go over to the Style tab, and we'll change the color of it to white. And let's go into the typography settings, and let's increase the size to about 60. Now let's click out, and you could leave it the way it is here, aligned to the left side, or you can go in and we can change the alignment to center. I like the look of this, so we're going to leave it at center. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add another heading right below it. So let's click back, and then let's drag another heading right below it. And then we'll change the title to Web Design Packages for Everyone. And then again, we'll make sure that we center this text. Now let's go into the Style tab. We'll change the color to white. And let's go into the typography settings. And let's change the weight of this text to about 300. And we'll change the size to about 21, 22. Let's do 22. That looks good. So let's click back to the main menu. And the last thing I want to add is just a divider in between these two headings. So let's click and drag divider right in between them. We'll change the width to about 20. Let's center it. Actually, let's reduce the width just a little bit to about 15. Now let's go under Style, and let's increase the weight to about 5. And the last thing we're going to do is just change the color to the orange. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add a second section. So let's click on the plus icon, and this time let's go for the one that's divided in half. So with this one, we'll actually have 2 columns. So let's click on it, and again, we'll change the height to min height. Let's go back to the widgets, and let's go ahead and drag a few things in. So let's start off with a heading, and we'll drag it on the left side here. And let's change this text to say, Custom Websites Built for You. Let's go ahead and start dragging a couple more things in. So we'll click back to the main menu here. And now let's go ahead and add a text editor right below that. So we have some paragraph text. And let's go ahead and change this. I'm going to write out a quick paragraph here. And then we'll click back to the main menu. And let's add one more thing. We're going to add an icon list right below our paragraph text. So now let's go into these items, and we'll start changing some of the icons, and we'll also change the text. So let's start off by changing the icons. So let's click into the icon library here, and let's look up check marks. And I like this one right here. So we're going to click on it, and then we're going to click the green insert button. And now we can go into the list item number 2. We can do the exact same thing. And do the same exact thing for the very last one. All right, so now all 3 of our list items have the same icon. So let's go ahead and change the text of each one. So starting off with the number 1 item, let's go ahead and add some text here. And moving right on to listing item number 2. And finally, with the last item, let's change the text. All right, so we've changed all the text we want. So now let's go ahead and start styling this icon list. So let's go up to the Style tab, and let's go to the icons, and let's increase the size of the icons. Let's make it about 20. And let's actually change the color of these to the same orange that we've been using. And that's all we're going to change for now. So now let's go back to the main menu. Now let's go ahead and add something into the right column. And what we're going to do is we're going to drag a image in here. So let's click and drag. And now we'll go in and let's go to choose image. We'll go to upload files, and I'm just going to drag and drop the image I want. This is going to be another image of a website. So let's go ahead and click insert media, and let's take a look. So as you can see, it's a little bit longer than what we want. So let's go back into our image settings here, and let's make sure that we have it selected. And then under the very right side, under attachment details, there's an option to edit image. Go ahead and click on that. And now we'll go over to crop, and we'll just come down and we'll click and drag this all the way up to about here. So now we can go ahead and click crop again, and then we'll click save. So now it's cropped that image for us, so it's not as long. So now go over to the right side and we'll click update. And at the top here, it'll say media file updated to let you know it's done. So let's go back over to our services page, and now we'll just click insert media. Now notice how it still hasn't really changed anything. It's because it hasn't updated on this page yet. So come down to preview changes and let's click on it. And this is basically just going to load a quick preview of the changes you've already made. And as you can see, it recognizes that we've cropped this photo. So all we have to do now is just click update. And after it's updated, we can just exit out. And then let's go ahead and open up Elementor again in the preview. And there we go. We now have our photo fixed and our section is looking pretty nice. So the next thing I want to do is actually adjust the size even more of this image. Let's make sure we click our image here so that we can edit the settings. So now let's go under style and let's adjust the width of this image. So we're just going to click and drag. We'll do about 60, and that looks pretty good right there. So the next thing I want to do is I want to add some spacing to our section here, because we started off with a decent amount to the top and bottom, but once we started adding things in, we're kind of crammed up against the top again. So let's make sure that we click on edit section here, and let's adjust our min height settings right here. So we'll just drag the slider a little bit, and that looks pretty good right there. So this is what our section is currently looking like. There's still quite a few style settings I want to change for the text. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to open up our home page in a new browser tab, because I want to copy some of the same style settings we used on that page for the text on this page. So we're going to come down and we're going to open up another preview changes page. And then we're going to click back to our home page. Then we're going to click on edit with Elementor. Alright, so now we're free to start copying some of the style settings from this page. So let's go ahead and start off with the heading. So let's go ahead and right click on this heading. We'll click on copy. And up at the top left, let's go back over to our services page. Let's go over to this heading. We'll right click and we'll click paste style. So let's adjust it a little bit more. Let's say that we don't want built to be on this line with custom websites. Let's say we want it to say custom websites and then built for you down below. What we can do is we can add some padding on the right side of this box to kind of compress it down. So let's make sure that we're clicked on our settings here for this heading. We'll go to the advanced tab and let's unlink the values for padding. And starting with the right side, let's just add padding until it compresses down. So at about 33, it compressed down to the bottom. So the next thing I want to do is I want to change the style settings for this paragraph to actually match the same settings on our home page. So let's come back up to our home page tab and let's copy the settings for this paragraph. Right click, copy, go back to our services page, and we'll just come over to our paragraph, right click, paste style. And just like that, we've changed the style settings for our paragraph. Now, because we don't have an icon list on our home page that we can grab the style settings from, we're going to have to change these manually. So actually, before we do that, let's go see what the settings are for this text. So let's click on it here. And we'll go into style. Let's go into typography. And let's just make note of what these settings actually are. So our font size is 17. Our weight is 300 and our line height is 1.8. So with that in mind, let's go and change the settings here. So let's go click on our icon list. We'll go to style. Let's go to text, then typography, and let's go ahead and start changing these settings. So our font size was 17, our weight was 300, and our line height was 1.8. And now our text is matched with our paragraph and it's looking pretty good. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to add a divider similar to what we have going on our home page. So let's go back to our home page here and let's go ahead and just copy this divider, and we'll go back to our services page and we'll just click anywhere below this heading. And this time, instead of clicking paste style, we're going to click paste. This is going to put the divider right below the heading, in between the heading and the paragraph text. So the next thing I want to do is I want to push this icon text a little further up towards the paragraph. And to do that, we're going to adjust some of the spacing settings. So let's go ahead and click on the settings for it. Let's go to the advanced tab and let's go to margin. We're going to unlink the values and let's add some negative margin to the icon list. So by clicking the down arrow, it's just going to push it right up. So we'll go a little bit more here. We'll do about 40. So the last thing I want to do is I want to add a button right below our icon text. So let's go back to the main menu. We'll go to button and let's just click and drag. And let's go ahead and change the text here to say start your project. We'll have it linked to our contact page. So we'll click on contact us. So now what we'll do is we'll go to our home page. We'll find our button. We'll go ahead and right click, copy, and let's go back to our services page. And we're just going to paste the style settings for it right on here. And just like that, we have our button changed. So one more thing, let's go back into the settings because things are starting to look a little crammed against the top again. And we'll go to our section settings and let's just change the min height a little bit. Perfect. So in the next lesson, we're going to start adding a pricing table right below this section. So in the last lesson, we started customizing our services page here. And in this lesson, I'm going to show you how to add pricing tables in case you want to offer packages or subscription plans on your website. So starting off, we're going to load our website with the Elementor side panel. And let's come down below the section we created. So let's go down to the plus icon and we'll click on it. And let's add this section right here. And we'll go ahead and change the height to min height. And now we can start adding widgets. So let's go to the main menu here. And before we get started, let's go ahead and search up pricing tables or just price. So as you can see, all three of these options here have the lock icon above it. And what that means is we're not allowed to use this unless we sign up for the pro version of Elementor. So you might be asking yourself, well, how are we going to add pricing tables if they're not free? Well, I'm going to show you how you can do it just by installing a simple plugin. And this plugin is actually going to add a lot more features to Elementor that you can use for free. So we want to get back into our dashboard. So let's go ahead and open up this preview changes tab. And let's just ignore everything and go straight to our dashboard. So now we want to go down to plugins and let's go to add new. So now we're going to go to search plugins and let's type in Elementor. And the plugin we're looking for is essential add-ons for Elementor. So let's just go ahead and click on install now. And then we'll click activate. So now we have the essential add-ons plugin installed for Elementor. So let's click on settings real quick. And if you go under elements, you can see all the different features that have now been added to your site. So if you find one that interests you and you want to learn more about it and what it does, all you have to do is click on this documentation button right here. And it'll open up a documentation page that'll pretty much show you how to use this widget. So let's go ahead and exit out. And we can actually exit out of this now as well. So now what we're going to do is we're going to click on update since we've added this new section. And now we basically want to reload our page so that the new plugin is activated on this page. So what we're going to do is we're going to click preview changes again to open up a new tab. We can close the old one. And now we'll get back into Elementor on the page. All right, so now we can scroll down to our new section. And now if we look inside of our Elementor panel, Let's go ahead and close the basic tab. We'll close the pro tab and also the general tab. And if we do all that, you'll now see this new section here called essential add-ons. And these are all the new widgets we have to play around with. So let's go back up to the top and let's just search for price. And as you can see, there's an entire new option here. There's pricing table. And next to it, it says EA, which stands for essential add-ons. So let's go ahead and click and drag right into this section. So this is just going to put one pricing table in. Let's go ahead and start off customizing this first one, and then we'll add in some more right beside it. Let's go ahead and change the title of it here, and we'll call it basic. So now let's move on to the next area, which is price. And we can go ahead and change the price of it. Let's call it 500. And if you wanted to add a sense of urgency, you could turn on this button here, which makes it look like it's on sale. Now we can change it from 500 and we could say it's on sale for $249. And here it gives you an option to change the currency. You can also change the placement of the currency. So if you want it on the right side, you can do that, but we're going to leave it on the left. And you can also change the text after the pricing. So if you wanted this to be an annual plan, or you can get rid of it entirely if you want it to be a one-time fee. And if you do that, you want to make sure you get rid of the separator. So now let's move on to the next section, which is feature. And this is where you're going to change all the features that are under this plan. So let's start off with the very first one, which is unlimited calls. And let's go ahead and change this to say 3-page website. And while we're here, we'll go ahead and change the icon to the one that we used earlier. And to make it match the one up here, let's go ahead and change the color of it. All right, so now we can close out of that. And so that we don't have to go through each one and adjust the style settings, what we can do is we can just duplicate the first one. And now we can just go in and change the text. We'll say 3 stock images. And we can move on to the next one. So let's just duplicate that. And let's change this one to say free web hosting. And we can duplicate that one. And we'll make this one say 24/7 support. And we can duplicate that. And let's finish the last one. And we'll say 100% money back guarantee. So now we can go in and delete the green ones, so that we just have the ones that we styled. All right, perfect. So now let's move on to the next section, which is button. And here you could change the button text to say anything you want. You could call it order now. And you could link the button to anything, but we'll go ahead and link it to our contact page. And now let's move on to the last section, which is ribbon. And you can make this the featured option. And there's different style settings for it. So if you wanted to call it like bestseller, you could do that. And let's take a look at the other styles. All right, so we'll leave it at that. So now let's go into the style tab and let's actually change the color of the button. So let's come down to button and we'll go down to background color and let's change it to orange. And again, we want to make sure our hover is changed as well. And we'll actually make it slightly darker. So when you hover over it, there's some indication that it's clickable. So that looks good. So the last thing we could do is actually change the color of the pricing. So let's come back up to pricing and we can go to sales price. And we can make this literally any color we want. You can make it red or any color you want. And we'll leave it like that. All right, so now that we've finished this pricing table, what we can do is we can go ahead and add a couple other ones. So to make this as easy as possible, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate this entire column because this section is only allowing us to have one column at a time stacked on top of each other. So what we're going to do is we're just going to right click our column here and we'll click duplicate and it's going to add a new column and a new pricing table right beside it. And we'll do the exact same thing one more time. So now we have 3 in a row, just like that. So now what we can do is we can go in and change the other 2. So we can change the title of this one. We'll call it startup and we can go under price We can change the price to 1,000. We can change the sale price to $4.99. And we can go under the features and start changing the features. So we'll make this a 5-page website. We'll say 5 stock images. And you could add a couple other things in here if you wanted to, but I'm just going to leave it like that. So now let's go into the last one, and we'll change this one to say business. Let's go under price. We'll make this one 2,000, and we'll make the sale price $9.99. And then we'll go into features, and we'll say 10-page website. Under stock images, we'll say unlimited, and we'll leave it like that. So now that we've duplicated them and we have more than one, let's go ahead and turn off this bestseller ribbon for at least 2 of them. So let's actually make it so that the one in the middle is the only bestseller. So making sure we're under this settings, let's go into ribbon. We'll turn off featured, and we'll do the same thing for the first one. So we'll go under content, ribbon, and then turn off featured. All right, so now we have 3 pricing tables and we have 1 bestseller. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to adjust the spacing of the top and bottom of this section. So let's make sure we click on our section here, and we'll adjust the minimum height. Like right there. Let's see what that looks like. And that looks pretty good. So the other thing I want to do is go back in, and I want to change the background color of this section to that alternating gray that we had on our home page. So let's go in and we'll highlight our color here, and then we'll paste it, and then we can hide our panel and we can see our plans here. All right, so that is a very basic way of adding pricing tables to your website. So that's going to be it for this lesson. In the next one, I'll show you how to add your portfolio to the bottom of this services page. All right, welcome back. In the last lesson, we put together this pricing table section. So in this lesson, I'm going to be showing you how to add your portfolio. The same portfolio we put on our home page, I'm going to show you how to add it to this page. The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to head back over to our home page because we want to copy that section so that we can just paste it right onto here. So we're going to click on the preview changes button to load a new page that we can click from. And let's go ahead and click on our home page here. And we'll make sure that we go ahead and click edit with Elementor. All right, so now let's go ahead and scroll down to our portfolio section, which is right here. So I've shown you one way of copying a section, and that's simply by just right clicking on it and then clicking copy, going over to the other page you want to paste it to, and then just clicking paste. That's probably the easiest way to do it, but let me show you the other way that you can actually do this. So let's go back over to our home page, and if we click on this right here, we right click, we go to save as template. You can go ahead and give this a name, and we'll call it Website Maker's Portfolio, and then click save. So what it's going to do is it's going to save that section as a template. So now what you can do is you can go back over to the page you want to put it on. We can click on the folder icon here. And this time, instead of being on pages or blocks, we're going to go over here to My Templates. And here it is right here. All we have to do is click insert and click yes. But just like that, we've got our portfolio put right onto our services page. So I'm going to say that this page is done and we're ready to start working on our next one, which is going to be our about page. Okay, so we've completed our home page and our services page. Now it's time to tackle our about page. So here we are back in our WordPress dashboard. Again, we're going to start off by going over to the Pages tab and go to All Pages, because we need to first enable the Elementor page builder on our About page. So let's go ahead and click on Edit, and then we'll click the button that says Edit with Elementor. So on this page, we're going to do a mix of adding sections ourselves, and we're also going to be importing some sections as well. But for starters, let's go ahead and add our first section. So we're going to click the plus icon and we're going to add this one right here. So now we're going to go to height and we're going to change it to min height, and we're going to go to the style tab, and then under background, we're going to go to background type, click classic, and we're going to add an image this time. And I've actually found a couple images I want to use already. I've found them on unsplash.com. What we're going to do is we're going to come over here to the download button. We're going to pick up the medium size one, and let's go ahead and grab the other one. So we're going to go to the download button, click on medium. And again, we want to make sure we compress these images. So we're going to go to tinyjpeg.com. We're going to drag both of them in. And then we'll just download the new versions of them. So now we can go back over to our website. We'll actually just drag the first one in for now, and we'll come back for the next one. So now that we've got the image we want to use as our background, we'll go ahead and insert media. And as you can see, it's not showing the entire photo, it's just showing kind of the top portion of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over to size, we're going to change it to cover. And the next thing we're going to do is come up to position. We're going to come down to custom, and let's just change the Y position. So we'll come down to the left and we'll put it like right there. Let's see how that looks. Let's come down just a little bit more. Like right there. That's perfect. All right. So now that we have our background image adjusted, I do kind of want to add that same scroll effect that we did on the last page. So under attachment, we're going to go to fixed. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a slight background overlay to this image. That way, once we put some text on it, you'll be able to see it. So we're going to go to background overlay, and under normal, we're going to go to background type classic, and color, we'll make it just black. So basically it's going to make it a little bit darker so that once we drag some white text on top, you'll actually be able to see the text. All right, so we can go ahead and exit out of these two tabs at the top, and we'll go ahead and exit out of that one as well. Let's go ahead and open back up the editor, go to the main menu, and let's go ahead and drag a heading in the middle. And let's change this text to say about us. And we'll center the text. Let's go to style. Let's change the text color to white. And under typography, we're going to increase the size to 60. And let's go ahead and drag in another heading right below that one. And let's just change this text to say websitemakers.com. We'll center this text as well. And under style, we'll do the same thing. We'll change the color to white. We'll go under typography. We'll change the weight first to 300. And we'll just increase the size of it just a little bit. We'll do about 24. That looks good. All right, perfect. And the last thing we're going to do to this section is we're just going to add a divider. The same divider we've been using. So first things first, we're going to change the width. We're going to center it, then go to the style tab. We'll change the color to orange. And then we'll make the weight 5. And that's perfect. We may actually bring down the width just a little bit, like right there. All right, so now we are finished with this section. All right, so moving right along to the next section, this is where we're going to start importing some pre-made templates into the page. So let's start out by clicking the folder icon, and we're going to go to blocks because we just want to put some sections in, not an entire page. So under category, we're going to look for about. And let's scroll down and find one we like. I think we're going to add this one right here. So let's click insert. And now we have this nice about us section here. So let's go ahead and start customizing it. So let's click on the text here. And let's change it to say our story. Let's come down to the button. And let's change the text of the button And we'll just say start a project. And we'll have it send people to our contact page. All right, we'll come back for the style customization in a few minutes. Let's go ahead and add a new image here. So let's click on the image settings and let's come into choose image. We'll go to upload file and I'm just going to drag the one we just downloaded right on top. And now we'll click insert media. All right, so now we have a nice little about section here. We could go in and change this text and write something about our company. So let's go ahead and sort out the style customization. So what we're going to do is we're going to open our home page again. So let's click on preview changes to open a new tab. We'll click to our services page or your home page, whichever one's complete. And we'll right click on our heading. We'll copy the style settings for it. Let's come back to the about page, right click our new heading and we'll click paste style. And let's go back to our services page. We'll copy the settings for our paragraph. Go back to about us and we'll paste those same style settings right here. And we'll do it one more time for our button. So let's come down to the button on our services page, copy the settings, and head right back over to our about page. Now we'll right click on our button, click paste style, and just like that, we have our section formatted. Now one more thing we'll do to this section, we'll just add a nice divider. So we'll copy our divider and we'll just paste it right below this one. And just like that, we have a nice complete about us section here for our company. All right, so we have finished this section. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So let's click on the folder icon because we're going to import another section in here. So let's go ahead and click the green insert button. All right, we now have this section here. So we'll click on this heading and let's go ahead and change some of the text. And we're actually going to get rid of this inner section here that says read more. So all we're going to do is hover over this inner section and we'll click delete. So now what we're going to do is we are going to keep up with the white gray theme. So let's go into the section settings. We'll go to style, background type classic. We'll go to color and we'll just put in that gray color here. All right, we now have our gray color added. Let's see what it looks like. It's a nice contrast there. So the last thing I want to do here is just style the text. So we'll just copy our settings here and we'll paste it right here, paste style. Do the same thing for the paragraph, right click on the paragraph section, copy it, right click on the paragraph widget here, paste style. Now let's go into the heading settings because I want to make it lowercase again. So we'll go to style, typography, and under transform, we'll make it default and we'll leave it just like that. So we've got this section complete. So let's move on to the next one. So the last thing I want to add here is just a team section. So under blocks, we're going to go to category, scroll down to the bottom where it says team. Now you can add any of these you want, but I think I'm going to go with this one right here. Just a simple team section with their names and their job titles right below it. As usual, we'll click the insert button here, and now we can go in and change some of the settings. So let's start off by changing this guy's settings right here. We'll change his name to my name. And we'll change his job title here to CEO. Then we can go in under Amanda's settings and let's change her job title to graphic designer. Then we'll go under Mike's settings and let's change his to web developer. And that looks good to me. So in the next lesson, we're going to start working on our contact page. In this lesson of the course, we're going to start working on our contact page. So let's go to pages and all pages. Now we'll go to contact us and we'll click on edit. Now we'll click on the Edit with Elementor button. And the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a top section header. So let's go ahead and click the plus icon, and we'll add this one as usual. And we'll change the height to min height, and we can go to style, and this time let's add a gradient, and we'll go to color, and let's put in our orange color here, and we'll put it in again, but we're going to change it just a little bit. We can change where the gradient starts to split. We can change the angle of it. And we can also make it a radial gradient. But we're going to leave it as linear. And I like that. Let's go with that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to add something called a shape divider. So let's come down here and we'll add it to the bottom. So with these, you can add shapes that divide each section. So for instance, we could add something like waves, and we can of course change the height and width of these things so you can get different variations. So let's start off with just this and see how it looks. So now let's go back to our main menu here, and let's go ahead and add a heading up here. And let's change the heading to Contact Us. We'll center it, and let's go to Style, change it to white. And now let's go into typography. We'll change the size to 60. And now we can go back and we can add a second heading below that if we want. We can go ahead and change it to H3. We'll just say something like, let's get in touch. Now we'll go into style, change the color to white, and we'll go to typography. Let's change the weight down to 300. And now we can move on to the next section. So we're going to add a new section and build this from scratch. So let's add one that's divided in half, and we'll change it to min height. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go and add a heading down here. And we'll change the heading to say something like, we would love to discuss your website project, just shoot us a message. And we'll change the text color. And let's go back into the main menu here. Let's just add a paragraph below it. And we'll just leave it as this text right here. We'll even copy and paste it just to add a little bit more. So let's go back and add something else. And let's look up icon list. So I want to add an icon list right here. So under the first item, let's go ahead and call this phone. And we can go into the icon library. And let's look up a phone icon. We'll go with this one right here. Now under the list item number 2, we'll make this one email. And let's go with this one right here. And then under the last one, we'll just say hours. And then we can say Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And as our icon, we can look up a clock. All right, so now let's go back to phone real quick, and we'll just add in a quick phone number here. And under email, we'll just add in a fake email as well. So now let's go ahead and style this. So let's go to the style tab, and we can add a little bit of space in between our icons here. Let's go into the icon settings, and we'll first start off by changing the color. We'll make it orange, and let's increase the size to about 22. And now let's customize our text. So we'll go into typography, and let's just increase the size. And let's actually bring the weight down to 300. And last but not least, let's just adjust the margin spacing of it so it brings it a little bit closer to this paragraph. So let's go to the advanced tab, we'll go to margin, give it a little negative margin here, about -20, and that looks perfect. So now the last thing I want to do is I want to add a Google Maps down at the very bottom of this screen. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a new section. We're going to make it this one right here. And let's change it to min height. And let's go into the main menu of Elementor. And right here is the Google Maps widget. So we're just going to click and drag it right here. And let's change the location to Las Vegas Strip. And we could zoom in a little bit. And let's actually adjust the height. We'll make it just before it starts to spread. So like right there. And as you can see, it's just on the edge there. So let's go into the section settings. And let's change the layout of the section from boxed to full width. And as you can see, it stretches this map to the edge of the site. But as you can see, there is a slight white gap here. So in order to get rid of that, let's go to columns gap and we'll change it to no gap. There's no longer a gap in between the left and right side of the site. There is, however, a slight gap at the bottom, but what we can do is we can change the column position from middle to bottom, and it's going to shift the map down to the bottom of the section. And just like that, we now have Google Maps integrated into our website. So in the next lesson, we're going to be adding a custom contact form into this column right here. That way your website visitors or customers can send you messages and emails right from your website. So in the last lesson, we created this awesome contact page, and now we're ready to add a contact form right here so that we can have people reach out to us. So the first thing we're going to do is head back over to our dashboard, and we're going to be adding a contact form plugin. So we're going to go down to plugins and we're going to go to add new. So now we can go up to search plugins and we can type in WP forms. And it's the very first one right here. We're going to click on install now. And once it's finished, go ahead and click activate. So WP forms is a free drag and drop contact form builder. It makes adding contact forms to your website super easy, and I highly recommend that you use WP forms. There's other contact form plugins out there, but this is the one I recommend. It's the easiest to use, and it's the one we're going to be using in this course. So once you've installed and activated the plugin, you'll be brought to this page. So just go ahead and click on create your first form. And now it's going to bring you to this page. So they've made the process of building these extremely easy because they've already designed some templates for you to use. So if you're building a contact form, all you have to do is click on this. If you're building a newsletter sign up form, you just click this. So it's really easy, and we're going to start off by clicking simple contact form. And now we have this awesome contact form already made for us. So let's go ahead and click save. So now that it's saved, we can exit out, and it'll take you to this page where you can see the contact form you just created right here. So now we're going to head back over to our contact page with the Elementor page builder loaded. And in the panel here, we're going to search for WP forms. And as you can see, there's 3 options here. This first one is the one that comes with the standard version of Elementor. And this second one right here came with the Essential Add-ons plugin that we installed a couple lessons ago. And this basically provides way more customization options for the form. So if you did not install the Essential Add-ons for Elementor plugin, I definitely recommend doing that. That way you have access to this widget. So when you're ready, just go ahead and click and drag it onto your page, and the settings will pop up right here. So under select form, we're going to open this up and select the simple contact form we just created, and it's going to put it right here on our site. And just like that, we now have a very simple contact form on our website. In the next lesson, I'll show you how to customize the style of it and make it look 10 times better. In this lesson, we're going to customize the contact form. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure that we're in the settings for the contact form. So we're going to click on the blue box here, And while we're under the content tab, we can actually adjust some settings here. So we can add a custom title. So if you wanted to get rid of this title that says simple contact form, you can change it to say something like send a message. And then you can even add a description. So we can say, please fill out the form. We'll be in touch with you shortly. So now we can go over to the style tab, and feel free to play around with these settings because you can make some really cool designs. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to box shadow, and I'm just going to add a very slight box shadow outside of the contact form. And we're going to adjust some of the settings here. So let's go with the color, and we'll make it a little bit lighter shadow. So something like that. And now let's go to border radius. So by adding radius, you're basically rounding off the corners of the form. So before we get any further, let's go ahead and add some padding to the form. So let's just add 15 all the way around and see what happens. It looks a little bit better. Let's add some more. And that doesn't look too bad right there. So let's leave it at 30. And we could go in and change the title and description. So we could change the text color, we can change the font size, anything you want. So let's go into the typography settings for the title, and we'll change the weight to 700. And let's go into the typography settings for the description, and we'll make this our usual 300. And then I want to add a little bit of margin to the bottom of this just to separate the form itself from the description. So let's do about 10. One of the last things I want to do is come down to the submit button. So let's make it a full width button, and let's change the background color to orange. And then we'll go into the text color of the button, and let's change it to white. And then we'll go into the typography settings, and let's increase the size of the text just a little bit. So we'll do about 17. And let's make it all uppercase. And then let's actually add a little bit of letter spacing. We'll do about 1. And that right there looks good to me. Looks way better than it did before. And it allows us to interact with our customers. One thing I do notice here is I want to add a little bit of spacing to the top and bottom real quick. So let's just open up the settings and adjust the min height to about there. And one more thing we'll do is we'll actually adjust the spacing of this column. So let's click on the settings for the gray box column, and we'll go to advanced, and under margin we'll add some left margin here. We'll do about 25. And that looks a lot better. So when you're done making changes, just make sure you hit the update button. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to make sure that your contact form is sending you emails every time somebody clicks this submit button. So let's go back into our dashboard. We're going to go to WP Forms, and let's go down to All Forms. So now find the contact form you just created. Should be under Simple Contact Form, and then just click on Edit. And now we're going to go into Settings here on the left side, and then we're going to go to Notifications, and under Send to Email Address, it's going to say Admin Email. So what this means is every time somebody fills out your contact form and clicks the Submit button, it's going to send whatever message they wrote to the email you use to sign into your WordPress account. So if that's not the email you want to send contact form entries to, all you have to do is just delete this information and then put in the correct email address here. You can also set it up to send to multiple emails just by putting a comma here, and then you could put in several emails. So we could make it so it sends it to support@websitemakers.com. We could have it send to CEO@websitemakers.com. And you could have it send to any email address you want, whether it's Google, Yahoo, Bing, whatever it is you have, you can pretty much set it up. But we're going to leave it as admin email because we want it to send to the same email we use to manage this website. And once you've changed that, you can go ahead and click save, and then you can exit out. So that's how you set up your email address to receive all of these contact form entries from website visitors and customers. So now that we've finished building all the pages of our website, we want to go back in and make sure that it looks just as good on mobile devices. So we want to make sure it looks good on our phones, our tablets, smaller screens, that sort of thing. So the very first page that we're going to take a look at is our home page. So let's go ahead and go over to Pages, and we'll click on our home page, and we'll go to Edit with Elementor. All right, so now that we're on the page, we're going to go over to the side panel, and we're going to come down to where it says Responsive Mode. Now, after clicking on this, you'll have three options. You can view your website in desktop mode, which is the default preview here, and then you can look at it in either tablet or mobile view. So let's start off by going over to mobile. So after we click on it, it's going to reload the site in a smaller view, and this is exactly how it's going to look on your phone. So now what we can do is we can go down the site and see if anything looks weird on mobile, and we can edit it so it looks better. So if text is too big or if a section's too big, you can make it smaller so it looks a lot cleaner on your phone. So the first thing I want to do is I want to edit the section to make it a little bit smaller. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on these section settings here, and then we'll come on over to min height, and let's just drag the slider here. And as you can see, it made the section quite a bit smaller. So let's make it just a little bit bigger here. And the next thing I want to do is I want to change this text. I want to make it a little bit smaller so it fits here. So let's click on the heading, and we'll go to Style, Typography, and now let's adjust the size of this text. And I'm going to make it so it all fits on one line. So we're going to do about 28. And now let's edit this text right here. So we'll do the exact same thing. We'll go to Style, Typography, and change the size. We'll do about 18. And let's go ahead and adjust the divider as well. Let's lower the gap a little bit so it's not so spread out. We'll bring it down to 2. So now if we hide the panel, we'll see exactly what our website looks like on mobile. And personally, I think that looks a lot better. You don't have to scroll down nearly as much to get to the next section. So speaking of the next section, let's go ahead and start editing this. So I think the only thing I'm going to do here is make it so that another image shows up. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the image carousel widget here, and it's going to open up the settings for it. So now let's go down to slides to show, and we'll change this to 2. That way we show 2 images instead of 1. Now what it's done is it's made these images smaller, and it's also made this section smaller. So now when we scroll down, we don't have this huge section with just one image. And again, it just makes it a whole lot easier to get down to the next section. So moving right along, looking at the next section, this doesn't look too bad. If anything, we could just adjust the size of the text just a little bit. Let's move on to the next one. Looking at search engine optimization, I want to adjust the size of this text just a little bit. So let's click on the heading, and we'll go to Style, Typography, and let's change the size. And I want to make it so that search engine appears on the same line, and then below that we have optimization. So about 32 looks good to me. All right, so let's move on to the next section. And that one looks pretty good as well. So we'll move on to the next one. And this one is what we offer. And I want to kind of do the same thing. I want to make all of this appear on one line instead of 2. So let's go change the size. And we'll bring it right down before it breaks. So about 32. And that looks perfect. So let's go down to the next one. And here we have some pretty large text, and it's completely broken up here. So let's go ahead and change the size. Go down to typography. And I think that looks all right, so we'll leave it there. And let's change the text below it so it's a little bit smaller. So that doesn't look too bad. And we'll leave it there. So let's move on to the next section. So let's say you really like how a section looks on desktop, but when you put it on mobile, it just doesn't look as good. What you can do is you can actually hide that section simply by just clicking on the settings for the section, going to the advanced tab, and then coming down to responsive. And at the click of this button that says hide on mobile, you'll completely get rid of it. So if we hide our panel here, as you can see, it completely gets rid of that section. So that's just a cool little trick you can do if you're not liking how a section looks. So let's move on to the next one. And let's go ahead and change the size of this text a little bit. And we'll make it a one-liner there. And that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and scroll down. We'll leave these images nice and big. And as you can see, just like on desktop, you can click on them and it opens them up a little further. And you can actually zoom in on your phone to see all the different elements of this photo. So going down to the next section, we have our quote here, or our testimonial, which looks pretty good. I think we'll leave it there. And let's take a look at this section here. So this is our About Us section, and it doesn't look too bad, but there is some things that we could change, like this text. So let's go ahead and click on the heading, and let's just go ahead and center it, and automatically that looks a lot better. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to open up in tablet mode, and we're going to make some changes there as well. So let's go ahead and do that, and it puts us all the way down here at the bottom, but let's go ahead and start at the top. So this actually doesn't look too bad. I think what I may do is just adjust the text just a little bit. I may even make it slightly bigger. So let's just do that real quick. We'll make it just a tad bit bigger. So like 52. And let's click on this next text here. And let's just play around with it. And so we'll leave it about 25. That doesn't look too bad right there. Now let's come down to the image carousel, and let's see what 3 images looks like. That's not too bad. Let's take a look at 4. Yeah, I think 4 looks good. That's perfect. All right, and let's go down to the next one. That looks good. That one looks good as well. Logo design looks good. All of these look pretty good. We'll go ahead and change this one though. We'll make this text a little bit smaller. So we'll bring it down to right about there. So moving on to the next one. As you can see, this section that we got rid of on mobile, it looks fine on tablet, so we're gonna leave it. And the next one looks good as well. Testimonial looks good. Now this section here, we are gonna change, because if you notice, it is a little scrunched here on the side. So what we need to do is we need to add some space. So let's go into our section settings. We're going to go to advanced, and let's add some padding to the left and right sides. So we're going to click on that button, and let's add some right padding. We'll add about 50 on the right, 50 on the left. And if we wanted to, we could go ahead and add some to the top and bottom as well. So we could do 75, 75. Now if we hide the panel, that looks a lot better. One more thing we could do is we can open back up the panel, go to the layout tab, and we can go to vertical align, and we can change it to middle, and that's going to center everything, all the content on the page in the middle. So now our image is kind of next to our text. It's really up to you how you want to do this. I'm just trying to give you some examples. So after scrolling through everything, it looks good. So let's go back up to the top here. And once we're done making changes, we'll just click on the update button. And because we made our website live earlier, we can actually pull it up on our phone right now to see what it looks like as we're doing this, just to make sure that the preview we see here on tablet and mobile view is the exact same on our phone. So once we've finished with our home page, we can go through and we can edit the rest of our pages the same exact way. So we'll go ahead and move on to the services section. So I'm going to open up preview changes. We're going to click on services, and I'll click on edit with Elementor. And I'll go ahead and exit out of our home page, and let's go down to responsive. We'll put it in mobile first, and now we can start making some changes. So the first thing we're going to do is click on our heading, go to style, Typography, let's change the size to about 36. And again, let's get rid of this gap. So we'll go to Style. And we can bring down this text size just a little bit. That looks good. Again, if you want, you can change the height of this section just so it's not so big. So that right there is fine. And let's move on to the next one. So here we're going to change the size again. So notice how there's no space right now between the top of this section and the bottom of this section. So let's go ahead and click on the section settings and let's go to min height. We'll just drag the slider until it starts to open. All right, so let's move on down here. And if you want, you can actually add some space in between these two columns. So we'll go to column here and let's just add a little bit of top padding. So we'll add about 25 to maybe even 35. That way we get some padding from top and bottom. That looks all right. And let's go back in, and I actually want to change the alignment of this button too. So let's go ahead and center it. That looks pretty good right there. And let's move on to the pricing tables and see what they look like. Looks pretty good. And again, we'll go down and change this section as well, just like we did on our home page. So we'll just adjust the size right before it breaks. And that looks perfect. So let's go over to tablet, see what it looks like real quick. Let's go ahead and add some spacing on the left. So we'll go into our section settings, advanced, and let's add about 50 on the right, 50 on the left. And we'll also add about 50 top and bottom as well. That looks pretty good. If you wanted to, you could go into layout and you could align the content vertically. So it looks like that. All right, so moving on to the pricing tables. We could change the alignment here too if we wanted, but I think that looks pretty good as is. Check out the next one, and that looks pretty good. So when you're done, just make sure you hit the update button.